Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Hack Shack Studios. Art T. Bear here. 40, I'm just going to say it, 40-year veteran of this wacky industry that we know and love called comic books. And yeah, mostly worked for Marvel and DC, but I helped a little upstart company called Image Comics. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that. And I'm I'm exhausted, man. I did like 6 hours of live streaming yesterday, and for a guy like me, that's a lot. And we helped our CG buddy Graham Nolan close out Ghost of Matacumba Key last night. He did very well. So I want to thank all of you guys for supporting the big guy and hanging out with us last night. And now we're going to hang out and do this all over again. So I got a special guest on Hacks Chat. I almost said tonight. I don't even know where I'm at right now. Hacks Chat this morning. And I've admired this guy's work forever. I asked him earlier if we had met. He said yes. So we'll probably talk about that. I meet so many people, and I have such a horrible memory. So he said Kansas City. So we'll talk about that. I think I remember that show, and we could talk about that a little bit. He's an excellent talent. So damn good. His name is Rob Hunter, and I'm going to say hi to people in the chat. Just like forever. Ever since I've been doing this, you guys show me a sign of life in the chat. So I know I pushed all the right buttons, pulled all the right levers. And, oh, I see some now. So we got Richie Doop, Hell Art, Hell Comicsgate, Hell the Chat, and Cow Pies to all. And to all a good night. I've never eaten a cow pie. I never want to. Oh man, we got Pedro Eng. What's up, brother? Hell Art, Hell the Chat, Hell Pedro Eng. Very talented so-and-so, as I like to say. Steven, I want to rock with you. Rockwood Drawing. Artie Bear, good morning. Good morning. Right back at you, Steven. Well, we got enough. We got enough in the chat. We can start a show. I hope everyone's doing well. These are very interactive. So if you guys have questions for our guest, fire away. And without further ado, I am going to bop Rob Hunter into the live stream. Yes. Welcome, Rob Hunter. What's up?
Hey, man. What's going on? Wow. It brings a tear to my eye, that intro. Holy cow.
Yeah. Did I lay it on too heavy?
I see the tail of your dog in the background. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
That's great. No, not at all. You are one of my comic book art heroes. So to hear all that stuff is fantastic. Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks. It's from the heart, man. I mean, you work your ass off. I love your style. I love what you're throwing down. And we'll get more. We're going to geek out. We're going to probably talk about the tools of the trade, projects we've worked on. And also, I just want to welcome you to Comicsgate. So I want to find out about your journey here. I know you work with the great Chuck Dixon on. Was it Hunter Bear? What was the title?
Hunter Ninja Bear.
Ninja Bear. I dropped.
Yes.
Forgot a word. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that was at Phenom Comics. So we did that project together, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it looked amazing. Who did you get? Was it who was on colors? I can't remember his name right now.
Ivan Nunes.
Ivan Nunes. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, the colors on that book are amazing.
Yeah, I think I got him to do a commission piece at one point. That guy's always so busy. How did you guys get him?
Mel Ruby, the penciler. He's friends with Mel, and Mel was like, "Hey man, do we have a colorist yet?" And we're like, "No, we're looking for one." And he goes, "Oh, I have the perfect guy."
Well, then I know how to get Ivan now. I'm gonna become Mel Ruby's buddy.
Well, I know Ivan is crazy busy now, so I bet if you chase him though, because you're your RT Bear. So,
No,
but
he's always, yeah, he's always busy, man. He's always busy. Hey, we got some people welcoming you.
all right.
Hell Rob, what's up, brother?
Oh, hey, what's going on?
Yeah, we got Pedro Eng is welcoming you. Hell, Rob Hunter.
Hey, thank you very much.
You got one of those badass names. Yeah, Rob Hunter.
Well, for the longest time, it was in high school, it was Bobby. And Bobby turned into, as I got older, Bob. And try to talk to a drunk chick in a club and saying your name's Bob. Oh, yeah, you're like, oh, you sound like a dirty old uncle. So,
Bob.
What kind of dog do you have?
He's just a mutt. But it's been really cold and raining, so he's been kind of cooped up. So he has this little obstacle course that he does every once in a while.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Blow off some steam.
So I switched to Rob, and to be honest, I switched to Rob because Rob Liefeld. He was going by Rob. Yeah. I went from Bob to Rob because I realized there was no way I wanted Bob or Bobby in credits in comics.
Well, I knew a guy since we were kids, and he's older than I am, and he still goes by Bobby. And I was like, well, that's a little strange.
When you're an adult and you go by Bobby, there is a little bit of fun. There's, you think, oh, he's got to be the life of the party or something when you go by Bobby.
That's true. And he is. Yeah. He actually is. He lives up to it.
Yeah. See, there you go. Yeah. At CrossGen, I was known as Bobby C because we had 4 Robs within shouting distance in the office. So then I went by Bobby C for the longest time. Yeah. And I think they even started putting credits in the pages as Bobby C. But
well, the good thing is people can say your name. Like for the longest time, people didn't know how to say my name. So
oh yeah. Oh yeah, I called you Art Thibert for decades until someone, I think actually Andy Smith corrected me. Andy always would correct me on people's last names. He's like, dude, that's not how you pronounce it. That's not it.
Yeah. And for a while. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, he'd be like, don't call him that in his face. If you ever meet him, don't. We're all going to San Diego Comic-Con. Don't mess up.
Don't do that. Yeah, for a while there, I was signing like covers like like the way I spelled it here, T-BEAR, just so people could figure it out. And then I remember Wizard did it was a good interview with me some years back when Wizard was a thing, and they actually put it in the opening title, like they spelled it out, T-BEAR, and so that was a big help. To get people in line. It's funny though, because I remember I was talking to Adam Kubert, and it's weird because there's the Bert, and then there's the Bear. It's like the French, and then it's kind of like, I guess, Springsteen and Springsteen or whatever it is.
Yeah.
There's they're both correct, I guess. And I remember I was talking to it was Adam Kubert, and I said. Is it Kubert? Is it Kubert or whatever? He's going, hell no, man, it's Kubert. Like, he got so pissed off, man. It's like, how dare you? And I was like, I'm just checking, man.
You're just trying to, give it, fancy it up a little bit. That's all, man.
Yeah. Drop that T at the end. Yeah.
Spice it up a little. There's that famous Friends joke. Is it Spider-Man or Spider-Man? BB was like, oh yeah, it's Spider-Man. He's like, no, it's not a last name. It's his superhero name. It's Spider-Man. She's like, Spider-Man? So yeah,
I never heard that before. That's pretty funny, actually.
Well, that when Friends were on, you were crazy busy with big royalty bucks. So of course you never saw it.
I know the theme song. It was pretty catchy.
It was everywhere too.
Yeah, that was a big show. Those guys made some money. My favorite story about those 6 players is they all said that they should make the same amount of money.
Yeah.
And that is a really insightful, smart thing. And at least they learn from the past, because there have been so many shows like sitcoms and stuff where one player kind of starts standing out from the rest and starts demanding more money, and that is the seed of the seat right there, man.
Yeah.
And so networks play that up, man, and they start using that against people. And I thought those guys were pretty smart. It's like, we're all going to make the same crazy amount of money.
Yeah, the production company had to go to NBC and ask for more money because of the $1 million a person.
And it was an episode, right? $1 million a person per episode.
Yeah, that's insane.
Can you imagine?
Oh, I'd do 2 episodes. I'd be like, thanks. There's my retirement. I'm done.
How many episodes are per season usually? Is it 20 something?
Well, that's what's crazy about TV now. It used to be 60, and then it was 40, then it's 30. Now, then it was 20 in the 90s and early 2000s. Now what do we get? 12?
12, yeah.
Or 8? BBC started that because BBC started putting out those really, really good 8-episode TV seasons, but they also, the government helped sponsor their television product, so that's why there's not as many commercials on British television. Now, of course, the BBC America, there's it's Americanized, so there's a million commercials, but yeah, they would make only 8 episodes, and Netflix and everybody picked up on that big time. They're like, let's, either you can raise the quality or you can keep the same quality and less, lower the budget.
I know this is taboo to do, but let's just like spend some friends' money, like 20 episodes at $1 million a pop. That's $20 million a year. $20 million, right? That would be gross. Before taxes, they probably lose half that taxes. So
taxes and agent and manager, business manager.
Yeah, so they're probably 10, like, I don't know, anywhere between 9 and 10 million, maybe. They're pocketing. But hell, and then that show's was on for, was it a decade or?
I think was that thing on? It was on for a long time, and it was also I know they're $1 million an episode. I think that was only for like the last couple of years to get him to come back. Because it was all about DVD collections and stuff, because NBC knew that, law of diminishing returns. So, we can pay him this much for a couple more seasons.
Yeah.
So it wasn't
towards the end there.
Yeah. And thank you very much for the I had a blast working with Ed and Bettis. Ed, unfortunately, when I was at DC with Ed, that's when he decided to slow down. I think it's because he was already starting to feel the burn. And he's like, guys, I need an anchor, and or another anchor. He burns through anchors too. We can talk about pencilers doing that, but I worked with him as long as I could, and it was a blast while it lasted, because he is. Even my wife hates comic books. She's not into comic books. To be honest, she's the typical female who doesn't like comic books. She would look over my shoulder, and depending on who I was inking, she knew. She's like, "Oh, that page is beautiful. That's got to be an Ed Bettis page."
Yeah,
a real talent for that.
He's one of those guys that I always say, like, as an inker, like, he throws down graphite, man. He throws down pencil. There's a lot of pencil on that page, like an Ed Bettis page. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of work. You can't because I've heard some complaints about his storytelling and things of that nature, but you can't argue. The page looks good at the end, no matter what. And yeah, that's and what was crazy is when I was actually still getting FedExes, DC was still paying for the FedEx from Brazil. Every one of them was cut open with a custom tape labeled saying we had to open this. I'm like, every one, guys? Like, what? Who do you? Maybe you should come to my apartment and you'll realize I'm not. We're not shipping coke.
You're not
coke through FedEx.
You're not a terrorist.
or
Yeah,
drink it.
I remember for a while there between myself and Hack Shack Studios, which is a studio I ran for decades.
Oh, I
Um,
know.
and and we inked all the Spaniards. So we inked Pascual Ferry,
Hmm.
Salvador
Hmm.
Larroca,
Yeah.
and Carlos Pacheco,
Yes.
R.I.P. Man, holy shit,
Oh, I
he
know,
was a
dude.
major talent there.
Wow.
And all those guys are just chain smokers. So every time I pop open the FedEx box, it'd be like, like you just get this nicotine smell, and you always knew where it was coming from. But I would have appreciated if they opened those things in customs because we probably all got
Air it out.
cancer from that smell. But
Yeah.
if people don't know, I want to, God, we're just hanging out. But if people don't know, I'm sure they all know who you are and what you do by now. But inker extraordinaire, he can also pencil like a son of a gun. Rob Hunter, you've been doing this for decades, but give everybody just a quick highlight of like your career, and then we can kind of start BSing again. But I just want to have people know kind of, who you are and what you do.
Okay. Most of my career was as an inker. I got into at Marvel with helping out on X-Men. So right from the beginning, I got lucky enough. To be honest, I knocked on a door. I knocked on a closed door at Marvel, which is that's the golden rule. You're not supposed to do that. But I was new, so I had no idea. But that's how I helped out on X-Men, and I did some X-Men. Then I went over to wow, it's now when you think back, you're like, oh no, it's been almost 30 years. But I helped out on X-Men, then I was on Iron Man, I was on Gambit, I was on Alpha Flight. So I worked at Marvel for quite a while, and then from
When was
Marvel,
this? Was this
uh,
90s or
yeah, because it was when all you guys left for Image for bigger money. So there was this hole at Marvel. So
so
uh
early mid 90s? So you broke in
90, yeah,
in the
90,
X
90,
office with Bob Harris?
94, 95.
Holy shit balls, man.
Yeah, and it was they're like, oh, he's brand new. How low can we pay him? He's trying to do Art T-Bear and Tim Townsend. Oh, this is perfect. Let's see. So I don't I like to make jokes about the low page rate, but it
But it
was
was
a
a low page rate. Even when I left, it
yeah,
was a low page rate, man.
yeah, but it was I couldn't believe the books I worked on in the beginning, like X-Men. I got paid like $100 a page in royalties when the royalty check would finally show up. I think that the first year I worked 3 months and I made like 19 grand. And then the next year I worked 6 months and made 22 grand. And I'm like, oh, where's this going? And then by the third year, when I was like working on Iron Man full time, I think I made like 20 some thousand. And I'm like, there's you like that was that time when the boom was like 92, 93, and then they just you could just see the business like losing momentum, and I could see it each year. And I already had decided, I decided on
From 94 to 95, you could
yeah,
see it monthly
yes, that's what I
shift like
heard.
crazy, man. That's why I had to leave Image Comics. Like I was 94 Black and White came out.
Yeah.
And so I had an ongoing plan. So I thought I'd inventory 3 issues. I'd get ahead of the game and everything,
Hmm.
and I'd come out with the series next in the following year.
Hmm.
And by the time I was ready to launch and launched, the industry had, oh my gosh, I was watching the trends, Rob,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
then and then
dude.
and then I had projected it, and
Yeah.
then even my worst case projection, and I was talking to Nick Brucci, I was talking to a bunch of insiders, follow
Hmm.
the industry, and even they were way off with the prediction. I mean, it had just pretty much bottomed by the time the ongoing came out, and sadly I had to leave and go back to Marvel Comics after that. But
Oh, I
yeah,
remember that. The Black and White was like one of my favorite Image books.
oh sweet, yeah,
Yeah,
thanks.
like it was I just remember looking at it and going, I have no complaint. You know, like the story's cool. It's fast paced. The art is awesome. The colors are awesome. Like all the other Image books were, you know, the inconsistency that there was a bit of a roller coaster of whether the regular guys doing it or whatever. But your book was um, the most solid. That miniseries was so solid that it was just like, how can you, like, every page you're just like, yeah, this is more amazing stuff. This is more
No,
amazing
thank
stuff.
you, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steve Sprouse once told me, when we were still on X-Men, he said X-Men was Marvel's highest. It was its number one profitable book because all the other books ahead of us at Marvel, all those guys had those big contracts because Acclaim tried to steal all their superstars. Because as the industry, you know, started to tank. So when he told me that, I was like, oh, I think I need a raise. And he joked, he's like, yeah, well, then it won't be as profitable. And I know that even Steve ended up with he signed up for a contract for like Gambit because he would call me up and go, hey, if the Marvel editor calls you, tell me you already had the last of the pages because of my contract stipulates that was supposed to be done yesterday.
Oh my god. So yeah, well, cut me in on some of that exclusive money. Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's like, hey, Rob, I brought you in on an X book. You're welcome. Brand new X book. So yeah.
So you didn't work under any of those crazy exclusives that Marvel had? Is this still like the mid-90s?
Yeah. This is still the midnight. I was at Marvel for like 10 years. Then I jumped over to DC. Yeah, I feel like then I did CrossGen because I went from Iron Man over to CrossGen, and I was at CrossGen for 3 years, and I was there till they started to tank, and then Bart and I went back to Marvel for Captain America, and unfortunately that didn't work out so well. We started like a month late, and we had been so babied. Like CrossGen was like, here's your schedule, do 5 pages a week. Here's your check every 2 weeks. And then Marvel's like, dude, get this shit done or we're going to yell at you and make, you know, and you're just, yeah, exactly. Or we'll fire you. Exactly. So then I went from Marvel, and then I eventually got in with DC because, and in fact, with Brandon Montclair, did you ever work with Brandon over at DC?
No.
Yeah, he wanted, not only did he's like, hey man, we really like what you're doing, we'll try to keep you busy. He really wanted one of the pencilers that I had sending samples over. He's like, dude, who is this guy? Because I had done like 6 months or a year at Top Cow, just like helping out on stuff. What was
Did you move to California when you worked with Top Cow?
No. That was when the Wizard guy was. Remember when he was editor in chief at Top Cow for a while? I'm really bad at names. It's funny. You say you've got a bad memory. I have terrible memory when it comes to names. So he was kind of a little bit of my hookup.
Plus, I remember Matt Hawkins, and was Brian Hemberlin? Was he kind of
I think he was
over there for a while?
Yeah, I think he was kind of hiring people too because of coloring was so important, and I think he was because I would the whole time I was still sending samples and stuff to the West Coast guys. Wildstorm. I actually did one of those Wildstorm tryouts in the very beginning before I started at Marvel.
Oh, before you started at Marvel, I was going to say, man,
yeah.
10 years after into Marvel, I think at that point you don't jump through people's hoops like that anymore.
Well, isn't it crazy this business though? Like, doesn't matter how long you've worked. Some people, some of the editors or some of the creative they'll actually reply to emails and submissions, and then some studios, they're like, I don't care what you've done. You
Really?
don't even get it. Yeah, guys that won't even give emails back. I'm like, well, I'm up here now. Could you at least say, no, I've got a regular dude, or
just be professional and just respond to somebody's message. You know, I try to respond to everything. Sometimes I'm a little late, but I do try. There's a story. this is why you always get back to people, by the way. This is a cautionary tale. I was roommates with John Francis Moore, the writer, and
Mhm.
he was Howard Chaykin's writing partner, and wrote a lot of comic books on his own. And so we were roommates in California, and he gets this call from these Wachowski guys, and
Uh-oh.
he was working on the Flash TV series at the time, and the Wachowskis were trying to break into comic books, and they just wanted to do comic book related stuff, and he never got back to them.
Oh, dude.
Smash cut a couple of years later, there's the Matrix, and there's all that stuff happening. And I remember talking to him a few years after that, and he's like, yeah, always get back to these people, because he was out of work. He could,
Oh, dude.
because if he would have got those guys, and or at least treated them nicely, because I think he and Howard Chaykin were what do they call them, head writers or whatever
Mhm.
on the Flash TV show. So they could have hired, they were in a position where they could have hired those guys, you
Oh,
know.
dude.
So even if they
Oh,
asked them to do samples, or they treated them nicely, you know what I
yeah, yeah.
mean?
Mhm.
It would have, you could actually, kind of cash in some favors later. And nope, they didn't have that
Oh.
one.
Well, did you ever hear the stories of how when they were shopping around Matrix before it came out to like Wildstorm and those guys to do comics,
I
and
know that there was
they all passed. Everybody said no.
yeah, Marvel, I think, did they do a Magneto, or did they do a spec? Either they did something on spec, or they had done a Magneto miniseries or something. I never saw it. Yeah.
Steve Sprouse is his inroad with the Matrix guys is because he worked on. Remember the was it Cliff Barker, the horror stuff?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, well, Sprouse worked on a book with one of the Wachowski brothers that never even came out. Like
Okay.
they had done like 6 or 7 issues, and the whole line was canceled before their book came out.
Was that for
So
Marvel, or was that
yes, that was for
okay, so
Marvel.
that's probably what it
Yeah,
was then.
yes,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but those guys, the directors, the director brothers, they were running around to everybody saying, "Hey, this movie's coming out. We've already filmed it, but we would like to do tie-ins. Especially because one of the brothers, he likes comic books. He worked at Marvel, even though it never came
Yeah.
out, things like that. And everybody said no. And Matrix was such a big, huge surprise hit. If like Wildstorm had said yes to it, Wildstorm would have been the
Oh,
guys with all the artwork for the merchandise, because literally you could have just like pulled art from the pages and the covers and made t-shirts out of it. I can't even imagine how much money was missed out on that deal, because you're just like, who are these guys? You
yeah,
know?
yeah. So
Yeah.
Steve's last name is Scroach, not
I,
Scroachy?
it's Scroachy. I always kill his last name. I'm terrible about
Okay,
that. Yeah,
because
it's
when you were
Scroachy.
saying it, I thought that's
Yeah,
who you were talking about.
yeah.
Yeah, I actually bought that art of the Matrix just so I could see his storyboards, man. That guy is so freaking good.
I was supposed to ink some of those.
The storyboards?
Yeah, yeah. That was when email was in the infancy, and I had moved from New York to South Carolina. I was there for a year, and Steve couldn't get a hold of me. He goes,
Ah,
"Yeah, we got behind." He goes, "You missed out on inking Matrix storyboards," and by then I was at CrossGen, and I'm just like, I just put my head down, and I'm like, don't cry in front of the guys. Don't cry in front of the guys.
well, we should revisit our hacks chat, and talk about like moments that could have been.
Oh, dude. I
Yeah.
can't even imagine, because of all the projects you were working on, and you guys were at the forefront, kicking total ass.
It
So,
was crazy, just stuff that was just being thrown, at us constantly. It was really good times. I mean, when you hear the Image guys saying like it was like rock and roll, It was damn close, man.
Wow.
It was pretty crazy. But I mean, you had some of that with the Marvel years. I mean, the books are still selling pretty well. I want to ask you though. All right, so you came in kind of after all of us took
Hmm.
off.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
what was the treatment like? Was Marvel like? Were they really, really like? We got to treat these guys better because we lost these other guys, or were they like,
No.
we're not going to treat anybody this good ever again?
Yeah, and in fact, there's that rumor that always flies around the industry. And I actually asked Rob Liefeld when he was at the Tampa Con. Um, I asked him. I said, "Dude, there's this rumor that when all the Image guys left, that Marvel and DC decided they would never hype their artists the same way again. Like they'll hype the writers, but they won't hype the artists." And he just kind of looked at me with a big smile and he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I've heard that same rumor." And he goes, "Well, just look at the industry. What do you think? Do you think they treat guys as well as they did with us, and then we left?" Because the Marvel stock actually dropped when Image was announced.
There was an
So
article in Forbes magazine.
yeah.
They made like financial news. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They whatever the shares were, they dropped like $3 a share or something, which considering how many shares a company releases to the public now.
God, I
Um,
wish I would have held on to my Marvel stock.
well, that depends. I had a short stint with indie publisher, and I don't think anything ever came out. But he made all his money on the stock market. He was a stockbroker, and he says he still doesn't understand the deal that happened because Marvel went bankrupt, the stock went to zero, and then he goes, not long after that they released a brand new stock. So if you had that stock from back in the day, you would have lost all your money
Are you
because they reissued.
serious?
Yeah, they reissued that stock, and he says that he worked on Wall Street, and he said he saw a lot of really shady deals. He goes, that's why he finally left, and he says he has no idea how they legally did that.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah,
How do you do that? The company's still around.
yeah. I think
Wow.
it might be part of the bankruptcy proceedings. Like if you can manage it because new companies are coming in and buying it, that technically Marvel is a brand new company. I don't know. Like
Yeah, you
I
think they would
yeah.
still honor the stock, you know what
No,
I
no,
mean? Because I
no.
mean, traditionally, usually it works like if you still hold on to the stock, it could tank, but
Mhm.
then, if you hold on to it, then it can build back up. And then obviously, Marvel stock, if in normal,
Yeah.
circumstances, it would build back up. And then, then there's the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films,
Mhm, mhm.
that started the whole like ball rolling, the momentum upwards,
Yes,
and
yes.
then you have Iron Man, and then you have the Disney merger, and all that other stuff. It seems like if you had it from the beginning, you would be doing quite well right now. Well, not right
No.
now because
Yeah.
Disney stock is starting to go down, but
Yeah.
but
Disney stocks.
know.
No, no, yeah, yeah, somehow they reissued all that stock. So
I'm gonna
everybody got who
close
owned
my
it got
Oh,
a
I'm going
portion
to
of it.
close my blinds here because there's a little too much light.
All
Go ahead.
right. So yeah, I kind of lost track of where I was. We were talking about the market. We're really good at tangents, that's for sure. I'm terrible at tangents. I'll start talking. I'll be at a con. And I'll start talking about one thing and realize I've been talking to people for 25 minutes and I don't even remember what the question was that started everything.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's me as well. But I don't. At this point in time, I don't even make apologies for it. It just is. It is what it is. I always
yeah,
kid
yeah,
like I could have Alzheimer's right now and no one would know because they just go, "Oh, it's just normal. It's just normal for art. Like he forgets everything anyway."
I'll go upstairs and my wife will be like, "Hey, can you grab my sneakers while you're up there or whatever?" I'll come back downstairs. I don't have the sneakers. And half the time I go upstairs and I'll come back down and I'll look at it and I'll go, "What? Why did I go upstairs?" And she's just like, "Oh, Jesus, you are stuck in the house
You are
way too
you are
much."
bad. Yeah, you are bad.
I think about a million things, you know.
Yeah. I think that's the nature of this, but I like the way my brain works. I don't have a problem with it. Everybody else does, but I don't. Fearsome Bullet says, "What's after black and white art?"
Ooh.
I have my art book, Oodles of Doodles, and other stuff too. I'd like to do a little humble campaign for that. Do a second printing, and then I have a story for Chrono Mechanics, and I just have to figure out how to make it all happen. You know, I mean, there's so many different hats and work to be done that it makes it scheduling wise a little tough. And I've never really dealt with anything like this before, so I'm still trying to navigate through how to like balance multiple campaigns, multiple projects at the same time. And then of course I have roughed out Black and White, the follow-up. So we're gonna tell further adventures of Black and White. So Reed Blackett and Whitney Sung are definitely coming back. And if you backed Black and White Man versus Machine, there's going to be an epilogue in there. And so the epilogue, it's 4 pages, and it's going to wrap up the story proper, but it's also going to give you a little bit of a teaser of where the story is going to go after that, like the next story arc. So I'm going to do story arcs for Black and White, and I'm going to do story arcs for Chrono Mechanics. It's just a matter of trying to figure out how to physically create these things, you know, in a timely fashion. So thanks for the question, and back to Rob Hunter.
Wow, dude, that was a polished answer too. Did you have that holstered just in case someone?
No, I'm kind of getting a little. Well, I almost patted myself on the back. So as soon as you do that, like pride comes before a fall, right? So I shouldn't say anything. But after a few years of this, you kind of start working it out. The thing is, Rob, I know like all comic book people are really, really humble. Like I don't really talk about myself much. I never really did. I always thought, well, the work will do all the talking.
Yes,
I
exactly.
Yeah, I don't have to do anything. So I always hid behind the work.
Mm-hmm.
And then, when you start putting out your own campaigns, your own books, you realize, well, the work doesn't really have a voice. It doesn't speak, it doesn't talk. So, you kind of have to do that. So I still have a problem with it every once in a while where I feel a little like, it's weird talking about yourself like that and your projects and stuff. But if you don't do it, then, the projects don't have a voice. So you kind of have to do that. And one of the things, what's the best part of Comicsgate and CG is you can have other people speak up for your projects. You know what I mean? Like,
mm-hmm.
If you and I, and we're going to get into Death Raider, which is your new project coming up, and you have your pre-launch, but it's easier when like I can talk up your project, Rob, and then you can talk up my project,
Mm-hmm.
and so then it's almost like an endorsement as well. So when you have another talent, speaking that person, talking them up, then it's more credible than if you go, this is the best thing I've ever drawn, you start doing all that stuff, and, but it's like, it's Rob Hunter saying, Art, it's the best thing you've ever done, or vice versa.
Yes.
So that's kind of how it works. And it's sincere because, I've never seen, I mean, you're kind of like, welcome to CG. I know you're kind of new to this.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah.
But man, I'll tell you, you talk about checking egos at the door. I mean, you can see it. We've been doing this long enough. You can kind of see the egos kind of creeping up every once in a while. But the thing is, everybody, I was going to say for the most part, but I don't know any exceptions to it, keep their ego, check them at the door, and really, really promote each other and get behind each other's campaigns and their books. And I've never seen this kind of generosity in my 40 years in comics. I mean, when I first broke in, there was no money. So everybody kind of helped each other out. It was more like there was no money, so there was no competition. So everybody kind of helped each other. Then when the money happened, it was great that there was money, but people started becoming a little bit more closed in, a little less generous. And then the industry just fell apart, and then everybody was just backstabbing and a bunch of a-holes.
Fighting over nickels, dude.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah. That's what. Unfortunately, from my perspective, I actually saw, probably because by '95, people are like, okay, the huge royalty checks are, they've gone away unless you've already signed a, most of those guys, they had deals. Like I saw the Uncanny, when I would do 3 pages of Uncanny X-Men and I would see my royalty check, and I'm like, there's no way Tim Townsend's doing what he's doing on Uncanny X-Men for this, like so everybody had a deal, whether page rates or royalties and all that kind of stuff. But everyone still was, I would say, I ran into a lot more people that were still super nice and very helpful. And I don't know if it's just as the business has changed because it's more cutthroat, but dude, I'm I'm shocked at how shitty a lot of creators are now. I'm just like, why wouldn't you answer fans back? What, like how, like I answer everybody's email back. I even answer email back people back that I'm just like, he just asked me about Punisher and Wolverine, like silly fan questions that, we would talk about at a con. I don't have time to, answer these emails. I still do. I still go, yeah, Wolverine's my favorite character, or Punisher's my favorite character. I like both of them. Or I'll say, hey, Jim Lee did a really cool Punisher versus Wolverine story back in the day on War Journal. You should check that out. So, and then the professional backstabbing, I think it's gotten a lot worse. I think maybe part of it is the new generation of artists. They have a certain perspective, especially because of the internet and emailing and cons. Because cons, there's guys that are just like, yeah, I only do covers, and then I go around to every convention and I do a bunch of sketches. I do a bunch of con sketches, and I sell a bunch of crud. You know what I mean? Like they're not interested in being nice or even doing interiors or having a team. They're like, no, I'll just ink myself. I know it's not that great, but I don't care.
Right. Right.
That's
I think it part of it it is they're not really they're not humble. Like
no.
the industry for better or worse has always been very, very humble. And I
Yeah.
think the new generation came in with the Marvel movies,
Yeah.
with
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like there was a certain I mean I date back to like mid 80s, like doing
Mhm.
comics, right? And
Yeah.
so there was always kind of like there was art that was respected, and then there
Mhm.
was art that was disrespected. And comic books were one of those things. Animators really didn't. I mean, Disney, Walt himself, elevated the art form and praised those guys, but
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
pretty much like I remember talking to some guys that worked at the Flesher Studios, like older guys and stuff, and they said, they were cleaning off cells after they were done and reusing them. Like there was
Yeah.
no, they were like these little bastard children, like there's real artists, and then there's these guys that do cartoons or comic books, you know what I mean?
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
you do juvenile art, you do
Yeah.
artwork for kids, that type of thing. And so I think a little bit of that was there was humility, there was a humble nature. And also, I mean, if you remember going to school, like I don't know if your schooling was like mine, but like certain things you didn't talk about in school or you get beat up. Like if you start talking about Superman and Batman and the Hulk and all this other stuff, you'd probably get your ass handed to you. So you kind of didn't do that. You had your circle of friends where you could
Mhm.
do
Mhm.
that, but when you're hanging out with your jock friends or your rock friends or whatever it was,
Yeah.
you pretty much didn't bring that stuff up because you knew you were going to get beat up. And so
Yeah.
and I'm not making a judgment. I'm not saying
No.
one was better than the other, but then there's a generation now that are coming in, and it's like, the Marvel movies, I mean, there's a whole decade. Think about this, Rob. There's a whole decade, over a decade now, of these Marvel movies, like the
Yeah.
cinematic universe and the DC movies and all this other stuff in such a huge way. I mean, this is iconic. What Marvel did cinematically is it just took the world by storm. So anybody that's coming in after that, there's no shame. You know what I mean? There's none of this stuff attached. It's like they're like all high and mighty. Oh, look,
Mhm.
comic books, like they talk to their normie friends, and the normie friends know who Captain America is. Remember growing
Mhm.
up, like nobody knew who these guys were. You'd be talking about this stuff, and they just go, "What? What are you talking about, you weirdo?" Um,
Exactly. And the internet too. They get exposure. If you do a halfway decent, cool Captain America, all these people will say how great you are.
and that's why they want to do
Yeah.
pinups, because they know
Mhm.
that that's all they need to do, because
Yeah. Yep.
now there's the recognition. So
Yeah.
now a normie, if you drew a picture, and especially if you drew the picture of like the cinematic version, what is it, Chris? What's the actor's name? Like if you drew that version
Oh, Chris
of
Evans
Chris
of Cap.
Evans
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
Cap, then all of a sudden, the normies are like, oh shit, you got your
Yeah.
shit together. That's great. And you
Yeah.
and I know it's just bullshit. This has nothing to do with comic books. Like we're in the trenches.
Yeah.
We're freaking doing panel work.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
we're working our butts off. Storytelling, and most of those people, they can't tell a story to save their soul because they just don't understand it, and they don't really want to work that hard.
No, they don't care. They don't.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
don't
What?
care.
Yeah.
Because like I think you were alluding to earlier, like if you could do a pinup, and get all the praise that you could for a 22-page book, why not do it? And some of those guys, they go to conventions and they sell the prints and stuff like that. And they do, I guess, relatively well with less work. So it is a different, I think, mindset of the kids that are doing comic books today versus what we did. And also, I don't know. I think there's a different outlook too. Like we had to make money or we wouldn't be able to live. Like I don't know what these guys are doing because they're not getting paid that much. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're probably getting paid less than we did. So are they
Yeah.
all
In
still doing them?
2022, 40 years later, and yeah,
Yeah.
they're probably. I heard like there for when it comes to inking, there's two rates at Marvel, 100 and 135.
For
And maybe
inks or
yeah,
for
for inking, and I've heard that the penciling rate can be you know much better for. I I mean we've all heard like Liefeld just did that talking about how cheap the average studio was coloring comic books in 95. So um, if and you look at some of the trash that the companies put out and you're like there's no way that they're paying a premium rate. They're not even paying like a standard, this is what the American guys, if we want to hire an American dude, those rates that have to be so low because the art is so bad. Like, oh yeah, this is just, it's widgets, they're selling widgets. It's, oh, we happen to put Wolverine on the title of this, but you'll look at the book and they're like, what does this have to do with Wolverine? Nothing happens in this book. I've never heard of this artist before. And it's a writer, maybe if you've heard of the writer before, he probably wrote that plot like 6 months ago or
yeah,
12 months ago. And it was just sitting in the office. They're like, oh, we'll wait till we need to package this up for, the third quarter. We need, 16 more widgets to ship in the third quarter. Um, there's no heart into those projects. Those are artists that are literally just starving, and they're the only ones who want to do the interiors.
right.
All the new guys are all like part of when I was working at Phenom, I'm still technically working at Phenom. um, I was helping out, and I was really, like my boss really was like more the editor, and I was more like an art director. And I was contacting all these artists, and like professional artists that I
Can work with.
yeah, worked with, or maybe I didn't work with, but I liked their stuff. I'd always see their stuff when DC was sending me all their books, and I'd email them like, oh, he's a Facebook buddy. Let me email him, see what his schedule's like. They'd all say the same thing. Are you gonna need covers? Everybody would say that. Do you need covers? You're like, no, we don't need. This is a big fat trade paperback. We don't. There's gonna be actually one cover, and then the boss wants to do chapter covers, but no, we don't. We don't need. six
And
different
then they're
guys
just like,
drawing
that's a lot of
covers.
work. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, storytelling. Yeah, what? Why would I want to draw panels?
Yeah.
What fan ever comes up to a professional artist at a convention and says, dude, that sequence you did in Captain America, those three pages are so amazing. I got to get you to do a pinup. I got to get a con sketch from you. No, they go, oh, dude, Captain America number 22 cover was awesome.
Yeah.
I got to get you to do, can you do a Captain America sketch for me?
Yeah.
So.
But when I broke in, I don't know about you, but the emphasis was always on storytelling.
In teams.
It really wasn't
Yeah.
like how well you draw or anything like that. It was how well can you tell a story. That was kind of the bottom line. And and then I mean, Image shifted things for better or for worse. Where it was more art oriented and kind of more pinup ish. Like showing off and really kind of, I don't know, kind of placating the pinup idea, more like giving you something really cool to look at versus like sequentials. Although like the good ones were able to combine the two, and there's still, that ripple still is there. There's still guys that can kind of open things up, give you big moments and still keep the storytelling intact. And those are the guys I really like.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. And so, there's some good that came out of it. But now I don't know what the emphasis is on, other than the bottom line is just how low will you go as far as how much we can pay you, that type of thing. And I'll tell you, man, this is the thing that I'm going to get up on my soapbox for a minute. This is the thing that really pisses me off about the industry. I really think the industry let us down. I really feel that now that I've had some distance from it. I think my last gig at DC was Super Sons with Carlo Barbieri and Peter Tomasi. Great stuff. I mean, was top 5 book for them, and I left top of my game, and it's been 3 years or so now. So I have perspective, and I just feel that the industry never expanded. The industry never sold comics to the masses. They just placated the same group of people that always bought it. And then, I remember New 52 or whenever it was a few years back, and they were like, they actually sent out press releases and stuff. Kids don't buy comic books. We're going to placate. We're going to make more adult books. So, we're going to have more adult themes, this, that, and the other thing. Well, this is another nail in the coffin. Like, well, who's going to come in and be the next generation? You're saying to all of us that you've just given up. Like, you're just going to placate the same group of people. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you can have adult comic books, but still you have to go after every generation. You have to go after a new reader group. You have to go after them. And that's when I broke in the business, there was always like, you have kids for like maybe a 5-year window, right? Like you have kids from, I don't know, maybe 8 to, well, maybe 10 years, if you're lucky, from 8 to 18, maybe, you know what I mean? And so then it rolls over to the next, 8 to 18 kind of group, and then so on and so forth. So people weren't so much hung up on like, continuity, because they knew another generation was going to come in. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't have a continuity going for 70 fucking years. Like these you can't do. These are all tasks that are impossible. I still have these conversations, Rob, with people like, the continuity. Who cares? Like, the continuity has so very little to do with anything, because one, it handcuffs you to what you can do, and then the minutia of everything creatively, it just, you can't really do anything, because then you're beholden to all of this other stuff and stuff that may not have even worked. Like, I really like comics when they were kind of on the fly. They could make it up every month. So if this was working, then you got more of that. If it wasn't working, then you deviate from that, and so on and so forth. You're always developing secondary and third plot lines. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yep.
maybe that plot line will take off. So you're always hedging your bets with the writing because you have several things happening at one time. Well, now they go, well, here's the mandate. This is the plot. And it's not like subplots. It's like, this is the plot for the next 8 issues. You know what I mean? Like, this is a story arc. Well, you talk about putting all your eggs in one basket. Well, what if no one likes that story arc? Well, you're stuck with it.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
I just think like it worked for a certain reason. And I think there's just been people that have come in and forgot why and how it worked. You know what I mean? And then it always comes down to people like us. Well, you know, Art Thibert and Rob Hunter didn't do their best job on this book, and that's why it didn't sell. No, the reason it didn't sell is because Marvel, DC, you didn't go out and you didn't sell it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, why does it come down to me? I'm not a salesperson. There's an actual department that sells things, and they get paid more money than we do. You know, so why don't you go out and do your job?
Yeah, hustle.
So then we could do our job, and then stop trying to save money by paying us less. Like, that's how they're justifying their bottom line, by getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper talent, because there's a group of people called sales. They work in sales, promotion, and they don't do their job.
No.
That's it. It's not complicated. And I don't care about saying it anymore. Those are the people that let all of us down. You know, that's how I feel anyway, you know.
From a business perspective, anytime someone from outside the comic books look into the comic book industry, they've been saying this for decades. They always say the same thing. They say the comic industry is horribly underfunded. For what they try to do, there's no way you can accomplish and be successful with what they're doing. There's no marketing. There's no sales. There's, you know, and it's done is it's gotten worse. Now there's not even the spinner racks in the stores where little kids would see comic books. Right. That's how I would see comic books. That's when we would be crying and whining to my mom for a comic book. It's because we were at the grocery store and look at all that. Look at those exciting comic books. Look at all those bright colors. My brother and I, usually we would just be picking out comics by what looked cool. And usually the DC stuff was brighter. You know, we weren't, you know, when you're a kid, you're not following artists, you're not following stories. You're just like, oh, what looks really cool on a cover. Or if you flip through it, you're like, oh, look, well, I've never seen these characters. Who are these characters? Just, you know, the Justice Society, stuff like that. Now it's such a mess. And dude, I ran into so much. It gave me, instead of my run at DC being, I still look at it as it was the biggest break of my life. But at the same time, I look at it as the biggest disappointment in my life, because the continuity patrol would put such restrictions on all the books that I got to work on that nothing cool could happen. I was working with Mark Bagley on Justice League, and we're like, wow, you know, I've made it. I'm on Justice League. This is DC's version of the X-Men. And at one point, I told Mark on the phone, I go, you know, we're going to be our run of Justice League is going to be remembered as like the Justice League Detroit. They came out in like 2001 or 98 or whatever it came out, as being a piece of crap. I'm like, we have almost the same characters. They won't let us have Batman. Well, it was Robin dressed as Batman. They won't let us have Wonder Woman. They won't let us have Superman, because Wonder Woman and Superman were wrapped up in their stories. This was during the time when the Superman story was the Greg Land and a couple other guys were doing that whole the bottled city with all the Kryptonians. And because DC was sending me everything, I would flip through them every day, every week and go, every month and go, they have to kill the Kryptonians. This is the most boring shit I've ever read in my life. Nothing happened. And even Pete Woods, who's amazing talent, I guess he expected the color because his artwork was very sterile. Style he was approaching. Yeah. That I think he expected his colorist to really bridge the gap. There was no textures. every time you saw Kryptonians, you're just like, my brain just shut off because nothing happened. It was
boring.
political and it was stale. So they're like, well, you can't have Superman because of that, because he's wrapped up in this stuff. And you're like, he's Superman. How fast can he fly again? You can't make it
And
back
can you
there.
imagine Marvel in the day saying that? Oh,
Yeah.
Wolverine's wrapped up in this story. No, Wolverine sells. We're going to put him in every fucking book. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, why do you have these kind of stupid mandates? They don't make any sense. Let me get this real quick. This is
Yes.
Andrew Ray. Art and Rob, were the salespeople incompetent or just lazy? So I'm going to let you start with that one.
Okay, in corporate America, if you fail, you get fired. But if you just do what you're told and do the baseline amount of work, your boss will eventually try to improve something. And when he tries to improve something and fails, he gets fired, and then you get his job. So it's corporate America is infamous for you rise up by doing the least amount of work possible, because you don't make mistakes and you don't F up.
As soon as you take a chance or have an
Yes.
idea or whatever, then you have the opportunity to fail.
Exactly.
You're in a vulnerable spot because you've actually committed to something and have a point of view. God forbid you have a point of view on how things could be better. And it's a system that doesn't reward it. It's a system that's just waiting to knock you down so the next guy can take your place. And this is the way they've created things, like I always say, Rob, like I don't make the rules. I just kind of live within them. You know what I mean? Like I'm not in a place where I can call the shots, but I can try to put myself into a place like I am now where I can have a little bit more control over my career, because I do really look at those companies as being mismanaged. Marvel and DC, especially DC, current DC. Well,
wow, yeah.
I can't even say that. I mean, it's been happening for a long time. Like I've seen the steady decline. You have. I mean, one of the first. It was the beginning of the end, I thought, was when they got rid of the newsstand. As soon as they got rid of the newsstand, I was like, well, what are you going to replace it with? Direct sales. Oh, okay. What's the benefit of direct sales? Oh, we get paid in advance. And, because the newsstand, they would get paid on whatever sold.
Yeah.
And, and it was a little bit more of a process. There were returnables and there were all this stuff. So
it's more profitable.
Yeah, they were just looking at their bottom line as in a quick, momentary way. But I think what I would have done is I would have said, well, let's look at newsstand as more of marketing. So newsstand, let's put into a marketing category versus a profit. So let's go towards direct sales. Let's do that, because that's guaranteed money. That's good. That's not a bad idea. But let's keep this other thing going. And if it doesn't make the money that we want, then we'll kind of write it off as advertising. And what I mean by advertising is that there's every kid or every person that goes through there, they see that there's a product called comics. They see different, you can see the logos on the spinner rack. There's brand recognition. Even though you might not be buying those things, at least they exist. There are kids today, Rob, they don't know what a comic book is. Like I can't even fathom that. Like when I was a kid, even my friends that weren't into comics had a small stack of comics. Like every kid had a small stack of comics. They might not have been as into it as I was or you were, but they had them. It was part of being a kid. And it's because they were so accessible. They were so accessible. They weren't expensive, and kids had them. They had access to them. They don't have access to them anymore. So how the hell how's the product going to sell when a kid doesn't even have access to it? This boggles my mind. You know what I mean? These are the geniuses that are running the industry, and that we all are trying to support, not with just like buying the product, but also creating it. So I hope that answered your question, Andrew. To be honest, I don't know I think Rob said it the best. I think you just don't really try, because it's a structure that will knock you down
Yeah.
if you try and fail. And it's not a system that really will honor you or put you up on a pedestal if you try and succeed either. So you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So why even try? You know, I would even go further than that. I'd go, why even have that job?
Uh, because it
Go do
pays.
something else, man. I couldn't take, I just have integrity. I couldn't take money unless I was doing my job. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't have that job, because I would just go, what am I doing? I'm doing nothing. You know?
I make jokes all the time about money and royalties and sales and all that stuff. But to be honest, like we would have talks at CrossGen and people would look at me and go, but those aren't your decisions. You make jokes about, oh, dude, we need 6 gimmick covers and things like that. They're like, but every decision you've made in your career is about the art and trying to do a better job, and not about the money. You actually walk away from money all the time because you keep artwork at a certain bar, and and I just would look at him and go, I know. Like I can't eat 2 or 3 pages a day. My style and the way I would do it, it would be like maximum 1 page a day. And so I was always having to leave money, on the table, especially at DC when they had me. If I was fast enough, they would have had me eking $4 a month with all the different things that they offered me during the peak of, when they were most excited about the brand new shiny toy. But I just, I couldn't do it. I would just look at it. Even my approach when I inked Ron Lim, my approach was, I've seen people ink Ron Lim, and usually it looks like they can do it in 3 or 4 hours, and it's an easy day, or they get the whole stack and really do the week's worth of work in a day and a half. I go, well, all right, effers, I'm gonna spend 10 to 12 hours a day on a Ron Lim page and see what you son of a bitch is think of that. And so I would do that. And then, I go, hey, Rob, you want to do 3 pages of this? You want to do 4 pages of that? And I'd be like, I do want to do those pages, but I'm spending 12 hours on a Ron Lim page. I don't know how to do this. I'd always say yes and then go, I don't know how I'm going to do all this stuff. So, right. It's a weird, occasionally I will think about, what if I had just taken an office job and, punched in, punched out? I'm like, I don't think I could do that, because I'd still be the asshole in the meeting, raising my hand going, hey, why are we doing it this way? Why don't we do this? A big
because
part
you
of
have integrity, and you want it to look good, and
I
so
want everything to be better.
everything
It's like
to be better. You want to
yeah,
elevate everything. And
yes.
hey, dude, I'm the same exact way. I can't say I managed my entire career like that, but I do remember I was working in the studio, like you'd hang out with other people every
Mhm.
once in a while. Artists would come and hang out in your studio and work for a day or whatever. And so, I'm working, and my friend comes over, and he's looking over my shoulder, and he's like, "You're still working on that panel?" And it's like, "Yeah." It's like, they don't pay you by the hour. And I go, I know.
My wife says the same thing.
Yeah, and then he's like, "Why are you working so hard, man? They're not paying you enough to do this." And then I remember, it really affected me, because I was like, "Oh shit." I respected this guy that said it. He was a professional. He got things done, and then I soul searched, and for the next couple weeks, I tried to think like, okay, bottom line, right? Get faster, do whatever, put less. And then I realized that this is me. This is this is how I work, right? I can't not do it, right? I cannot make it the best I can possibly make it. It's just not in my DNA. This is the way I work. And so, then how I would become the professional is I sold myself this direction. I said, you're only as good as your last job.
Yeah.
So if my last job is just for the money and it shows, well, then I might not get another job. So this was early on in my career where I had this conversation, and I have to say, I kicked this guy's ass. As far as career, trajectory or career success, I destroyed him.
Yeah.
But he put in way less hours than I did.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like, because I, like you just go, well, it's another hour. I don't need another hour of sleep. You know what I mean? Like you find yourself like, well, I usually take off a weekend day. Well, maybe I'll cut into the weekend a little bit to put a little extra, into this page, that kind of thing. I didn't know any other way to do it, to be honest. It sounds like you're kind of the same way.
Well, one of the biggest compliments I can give you, I was in Kelly Corvisi's office. We had both worked on an issue of X Factor over Mel Ruby. And I remember looking at the pages and I got a big smile on my face. I'm like, oh, look at this. I have way more variety of line than Art in Hack Shack Studios. I kicked those guys' ass. I kicked their ass. Look at this. And then I saw the published book and I'm like, I can't tell the difference in pages. Some of the pages I looked at and I'm like, I don't know if I inked this or if Art in Hack Shack inked it. Why am I spending so much time on that's when I knew there was a genius to what you guys did and what you do exactly what's going to look fantastic in the comic book, what looks great on the page. And I was being like this anal retentive meticulous on pages that nobody ever fucking saw. Like, I just was like, there's this giant lesson in my career that I don't know. Like, I'm like, Art knows exactly the perfect amount to kick ass and walk away. And I'm nitpicking a bunch of BS that nobody will ever see and it won't matter. And this is why when my editors go, hey, you only did half an issue last month, or you did 6 pages and we need you to do 8 pages that week. And I would just, I'd be like, I gave you 150% on all those pages. I don't know how to give you 125%. And after I give 150% on pages, now I'm burned out and I don't want to look at a page for 2 days. I need my weekend or whatever.
For me, I've had, I feel like I've had 4 or 5 different careers, you know what I mean? In the 40 years. And so there's been different mindsets, but when I was the most proficient and getting things done, I mean, between me and the studio, at times we always averaged at least 3 books a month. But sometimes we were doing 6 books a month, so that's 6 pages a day coming out of the studio. And so I kind of was thinking, and maybe it was a justification, but like if you're watching a movie or you're watching a TV show, because especially on X-Men, there'd be a lot of fill-ins because no one can really complete entire issues and stuff like that because of the schedule and because of the level of work too. There's a lot of those things. But then I start thinking like, well, if I was watching my favorite show, like I'm watching, Seinfeld, and then Seinfeld was replaced by a different actor, for that issue or for that episode, then I'd feel ripped off. So then I always thought like we're artists. So the look of the book and the look of the characters is dictated by what we're doing. So if you have a fill-in or you have somebody else working on it, then it's kind of a betrayal to the audience. You know what I mean? Because even different inkers can bring a different look to the same pencils. The inconsistencies I always thought was like it could ruin the viewing experience. So if I can only do a few pages, which I've done in the past, that's okay. But if it's my book, and this is where I got so prideful, if it's my book, then you will get every page done by me. And whatever the schedule is, I will make it happen, because I never wanted that inconsistency. And then it was kind of like what you were saying, like sometimes, you have that realization where you look at the book and you just go, this page I killed, this page I didn't. There's very little difference. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like you can't really tell that much. So if it's not, if you can't even really tell, then the audience definitely cannot tell.
Exactly.
So the better thing is the greater good, right? You have to look at the overall. The greater good is that you work on every one of the pages, because not only does the audience win, but you win too, because you get to do every one of the pages. So you have your pride, and then you have the money as well. And I remember no one had done this in the time, and this was probably late 90s. It's when I was working with Pacheco. When I came back
love that, dude. I love
X-Men. Thank you. And that was the job that broke me. And I'll tell that story. But I had done, I think it was like a year and a half's worth of work. It was like 15 or 16 issues in a row without a fill-in. No one on X-Men. I mean, you were in the office. Like, it was always many hands. Like, no one really could do that, keep that kind of schedule.
Yeah,
and so I think Carlos had to give up maybe 4 issues or 5 issues out of that, that 16 or whatever it was, and there were fill-ins. But I told the editor, I want to do those too.
Yeah.
And I think once you work with somebody and they start trusting you, when you say that, then they go, okay, we'll give it to you. And so I did the Pasquale Ferry fill-ins. I did the Herman Garcia fill-ins. I did all of those issues.
Yeah.
And at the time, because I kept score, when you're younger, those things are important to you, right? You're like, I don't think anybody has ever done this many issues in a row without a fill-in, So you kind of pat yourself on the back, but ultimately no one fucking cares. Right? It's just you that cares, right? Like, I can say it to you, Rob. I can go, I did 15 issues in a row, without a fill-in, and no, because like Tim Townsend could do half an issue every month, and so on and so forth. But I was doing every page, every issue, and no one cares. maybe you go like, oh wow, that's kind of impressive art, but you're just like,
it was that day in the office. I'm like, uh-oh. I was just like, I not in the office, but when I got the books and I looked through the book, and I was just like, I wonder if there's another career I could follow, because I'm like, I'm not doing this right. I'm doing this. And of course, 20, almost like 15 years later, I'm like, well, I'm still in comics. I'm still doing it my way. And I'm like, I still don't know if I'm doing this right.
But you're doing, like,
it's the only way I know.
It's the only way and so I had bouts like that, but I remember, and this didn't connect instantly. I mean, it took a decade or so for it to sink in. But Dick Giordano, I was on a project. I was penciling Time Masters, and I was having a hard time with the schedule. And I remember I was doing, like, I'd read the script and I'd go, hey, how about this? How about that? And I would do these little doodles in my sketchbook, and I send them to the editor, and I say, we could plus this idea. We could do this. We could do that. Because I was just so enthusiastic about it. And then it was Bob Greenberger, and he just said, Art, just do the work. Just whatever's written there, just draw it. And I was like, but it could be so much more. And he goes, it doesn't matter. And so I was in New York, because I was a California guy. So, I go to New York and I'm hanging out. And so Dick Giordano calls me into his office. He goes, hey, my boy, I hear you're having some problems with Time Masters. Talk to me. And so I told him, just the same thing. Like, I just don't know how to cut corners. It could be so badass. This could be amazing. And DC was doing projects like Watchmen and Year One and all these books. And I was like just a stupid kid. And I was like, we could do that, you know? And he's just like, well, he said, you're a contract player. He said, you're hired to do this. He said, there are books that you do for love and there are books you do for money. And he said, just take our money. He said, just take the money, you know? And I was like, screw you, old man. I'm going to do it. And, you know, about a decade later, I'm like, okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Well,
You can't treat everything so preciously, you know,
Yeah.
because it is a monthly, like it's like a weekly sitcom. You know, that's why I brought up like Seinfeld, because it's like it's every month. You know what I mean? It's not a race. It's like you know,
it's a
it's a
marathon.
it's a cross country marathon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It never
Yes.
ends. So
Yeah.
you have to learn how to like bring your best work within the time that you have. And so that's the way I always looked at it. Like if you give me a week, you know, I'm going to try to make it look like I had a month,
Mm-hmm.
but I realistically only had a week. And
Mm-hmm.
so I always thought if I give up pages, that's hurting me. That's
Yeah.
hurting my bottom line. And also
Yeah.
I'm giving an opportunity for Rob Hunter to take my job if I have a fill-in, right? So I was like, screw that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not giving Rob Hunter an opportunity to steal my job. You know what I mean? So I always made sure that I did that. And then I would hear people, I'm not going to name names, and go, oh, man, he's so good. He's so good. Look at, he kicked your ass on your own book, blah, blah, blah. And I go, yeah, but I did 18 pages. He did 4 pages.
Yeah.
In the same fucking amount of time.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
So it's like, okay, I would expect it to look better than mine. Like it's like when you know you wear glasses and somebody says, "Hey, 4 eyes," it's like, yeah, no shit, I wear glasses. You know? Like you're just pointing out the obvious. Yeah. So you know, like it's funny, you know, how you manage. You know, everybody manages their career differently. Some things are important, some things aren't. But like CG, like what I'm doing now, this is all heart and soul. You know, I feel I put 40 years into the industry to get to this place,
Mm-hmm.
and so everything I do on Black and White, everything I do on Chrono Mechanics is there's no compromise. You know what I mean? It's everything, and I will spend the extra time to make sure that it gets to that place because I feel like I owe people, you know, I
Mm-hmm.
owe people this. Like I do feel like a lot of my career has been compromised, you know, or like compromise, you know, like along the way, like little compromises.
Oh, I wouldn't say that though. I wouldn't say compromised. I would
Well,
just
I
say
mean, you
you
look back.
figured out the comic book. You figured out how
The
to be a
system.
comic book artist. You know what I mean? Like
It took a while.
I mean, I could say that most of my years at Marvel and DC, I never learned that lesson. You know, that's not like a backhanded compliment or whatever. That's like I look back and go, if I had just learned the art T-Bear lesson early on, you know, but I didn't, you know, like how many other projects would I have been able to work on, and not like, oh, how many like projects that would have been offered to me, not now I can do 3 books a month. It would be like, well, you didn't get offered this project because you were still busy on, you know, Green Arrow or whatever. I mean, I heard that all the time, like, oh yeah, we wanted you to come over and do Aquaman, but you were still busy on Green Arrow. I'm like, Green Arrow? They didn't even know if they wanted us to do the next issue, and I missed out on Aquaman because, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you know, you're one of my heroes in comic books for your penciling, for your inking, for your career management, to be honest.
Well, thanks. Yeah,
So I'm always amazed at everything you guys are doing. And now, I mean, that's why I'm here at Comicsgate now, because of what you guys have really laid the groundwork on a lot of stuff. And you know, I'm just because I've watched you guys for like the last couple of years. I was at Phenom, and I'm just like, because I had all these ideas at Phenom, and I'm like, well, we can do this, we can do that, we can do this, and I finally was like, that's what they're doing at Comicsgate. Everything I keep saying and I'm really good friends with Andy Smith from CrossGen, from our CrossGen days. So Andy's like, you should do this, you should do that, you should do this. And, I finally was like, I should do this. I should do that, and
that light bulb goes on. Boop. Oh
yeah.
that's a great idea.
And
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of time and given up a lot of money in the last couple of years, bringing my pencils to a point where I'm like, I want to be the guy doing this and that. I don't want to be the guy going, yeah, I can make this do better. I told my wife, she's like, you really are spending a lot of time just drawing and working on all this stuff and not taking on projects. And I'm like, I go, because I want to make my stuff look better.
Yeah.
I don't, I want to, here's all these things I want to do with, like, I have
Well, let me comment
yes,
and
I'm
stay
sorry.
in this moment
Yes.
just for a minute. It's
Yeah.
like just to add to it. It's like for me as an inker embellisher, and it's kind of like what you're saying. It's kind of a thankless job. Like you
Yeah.
could elevate the work all you want, but nobody's going to go, way to go, Rob Hunter. I'll do it. There's a handful of people that will,
Yeah.
but ultimately it will go to the penciler. And this is not me griping. This is just me pointing out a reality. Ultimately, I don't care one way or another, but it is about like the marathon. It is about survival, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, back to, the Carlos Pacheco. Like I was going against the grain on that book, and I knew it. I knew he wanted a more featherly look. He's an Alan Davis guy, and
Mm-hmm.
I knew that he wanted that look. But I also knew that, Joe Mad, and I also knew what style was really popular at the moment. And I knew it wasn't Alan Davis. I mean, Alan Davis
No.
is a solid guy, but he's never really been a superstar, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you're on the X-Men, this is superstar shit. You're A-list. It's
Mm-hmm.
no screwing around, right? So I didn't do that. I created a look that was a hybrid of the two, right? And so
Yeah.
I went against the grain. And so I remember Carlos would always say, "This is great, man. You're elevating the work. Every line you put down moves. It's so dynamic. It's so bold, but it's just not what I'm looking for, right?" This is more towards the end of our run, and
Mm-hmm.
so then he kept saying things like that, and then eventually I got asked to leave, right?
Yeah.
But I put my heart and soul into that project.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was freaking killing it because every page too was swimming upstream. It was a lot of work. If I would have just covered lines, it wouldn't have been that much work, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so then I was like, yeah, I created this style, and I did. I created a style over Carlos that's never been done before. Like when you look at that stuff, not to pat myself on the back, but the fact is, there's only that look. You know what I mean? That's the only time Carlos Pacheco looked like that. And
Oh
I did
yeah.
this.
Yeah.
I did
Yeah.
the same thing with Art Adams. When I inked Art Adams, I didn't ink Art Adams the way he had been inked before. And so even J. Scott Campbell said the reason I have the style is because of what you did over Art Adams. Because you inked him with that bloopy style, and you did that,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I liked. So when he was emulating, he loved Art Adams, but he didn't emulate Al Milgram inking him or any of that else. He emulated me. You know what I mean? And so, God, I want to name the name so much, but I can't. Okay. So what ends up happening sometimes too is like you elevate the work or you add something to the penciler's work that they didn't do, but it becomes their vernacular. It becomes their vocabulary, not yours, right? So if you do a certain crosshatch pattern or something in the look, and then that penciler realizes that I like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
He'll start penciling it like that.
Yeah.
And then the history goes away. Then it always seems like he's the one that always did it. But there was that one issue fill-in, that you did that changed everything. Like when Klaus Janson inked Gil Kane on a Daredevil. That was the Image style, right? That's what we all looked at. That's what changed our
Mhm.
our lives. That was the West Coast look, and we just elevated it from there. And I had conversations with Jim Lee, Will Patachio, Scott Williams. I mean, that was the epicenter, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And so these things happen, but the thing is, they get to move on with that. The penciler
Yes.
does,
Yeah.
but you don't. So you never have that. So hold on
Yeah.
to, you know what I mean? Like you never have whatever that ink line or whatever. Inkers understand it. Inkers saw you do it here, but then even they'll start emulating it and bringing it into their work. So unless you're being really fair and honest, like we're talking right now,
Mhm.
then you don't realize it. So it's kind of a thankless job. And so what I started learning is like, in the Pacheco job is what kind of broke me is I realized that it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? Like I could have covered the lines and the same result would have happened. Like that one moment in time exists because I did, do what I did, on the book, and that does help. But like all the jobs don't have to be like that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like everything I do doesn't have to be like that. So I kind of went into this like I'm going to elevate it, but I'm not going to innovate it. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like
Mhm.
I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember when I was at DC, this was just about before I quit. And there was this kind of digital, like I was working with guys that were working more digitally. And so they would do these tone things because they could use these tone brushes, right? And so
Mhm.
they were doing these gray tones and stuff like that. And then they say, don't worry about the gray tone, just send it back to me and I'll add it. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
And so I was bringing grease pencil into it. I was doing
Mhm.
tone, like I was doing, all kinds of stuff to emulate that look, like on Victor Bogdanovich or whatever his name is.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The Facebook
Yeah,
guy.
yeah, and then I remember, and actually Steven Segovia, actually he was generous. Like he was like, this, I can't believe you're practical on the board. You're
Yeah.
actually emulating what I'm doing digitally.
Yeah.
And he was like really cool with it. But I remember like I was asking DC for a raise and they wanted me to start blue lining. I think I was one of the last inkers to hold out on the blue line thing. And I said, you're asking me to do a lot more work. And they're like, it's not that much more work. I go, formatting, doing all this stuff. I go, it's a lot of work. I go, even if it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes added to a page, I do 3 pages a day. That's
Mhm.
45 minutes. I can ink, a third of a page in that amount of time.
Mhm. Mhm.
So don't tell me it doesn't add up because it does.
Yeah.
And it does cost me money. And I said I should be compensated for it. And I said if it doesn't, then why did you guys used to have a division that just did stuff like this? What were they called? Like Art
Mm.
Corrects or whatever it was.
Yeah. Production or whatever. Right.
Production department.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 And so I said, you're asking Inkers to be the production department now.
Mhm.
And it's saving you money, so you should pay me more. And they're like, well, we can't, blah blah blah. And I said, God, I forget who I was talking to. I said, there's stuff that I'm keeping chambered that I'm not giving you guys. He's like, what? I go, there's all kinds of style, there's all kinds of innovations that I have come up with, ink wise, that I don't give you guys. And he's like, what? I go, yeah, I'm holding back. I'm holding back because you guys aren't paying me
I'm
enough money.
holding back.
I'm holding back.
That's awesome.
It's A-level stuff, right? But I'm still holding back. And so then he's like, what do you mean? I go, well, there's all kinds of innovations, there's all kinds of things. I go, if you follow my career, you know what I'm talking about. And he's like, oh, okay. So he was intrigued, Rob. He was like, hmm. And so yeah, they came back, they gave me a raise, they paid for my scanner, they paid for my Photoshop, they paid me for that. They compensated me, which is what they should have done. Or
Mhm.
should do, because I'm saving them a shit ton of money in
Oh
FedEx
yeah. All
charges
those
and everything,
employees at
and yeah,
FedEx.
the art
Mhm.
department, all that stuff. And so I never felt bad, but I had that chambered and I delivered. That's
Mhm.
when I started doing all that extra stuff. So when I got that raise, I did start getting back into the innovation, but I just figured like, well, I need to be compensated for it. I can't keep giving this stuff away.
Yeah.
for free. And so then it led me to, independent, Comicsgate, doing stuff for
Hmm.
myself
More
because,
innovation.
right. Like
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about that because what ends up happening too, Rob, is you kind of get angry, right? You get a little
Yeah.
discouraged and angry.
Get a little sad. You know what the worst is? The sad, angry comic book artist. You're sad and angry all at the same time.
Yeah, but you're
We're
still
so
optimistic. You're like, I'll still give you my best, you son of a bitch.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
It,
let's give some Death Raider. Let's use this as an opportunity to show people what you're all about now. So I
sad,
think
angry.
people got a good sense of who we are and what we're about.
Yeah,
Angry, disgruntled
sad, angry.
employees. Sad, angry.
Sad, angry.
A bunch of sad, angry artists. But this is a Death Rated by Rob Hunter, a fast-paced superhero action adventure origin story launching the Deathverse. So this is your new book.
Mm-hmm.
Here's some of the artwork. I saw this one with the chick with the gun. That looks awesome, man.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, this looks badass.
I spent way too long on that cover. Like I couldn't even decide on the layout. Like I'm like, how long did I spend just laying that out? Yeah, kept changing it.
Well, it looks fantastic, man.
Thank
So
you.
talk about it a little bit. Yeah.
So pretty much what it is he's a MARSOC Marine, and while on mission, him and his team get ambushed. They get all effed up, and now he's a disabled. Pretty much he's critically injured, and he's disabled from his injuries, and he's got to overcome his injuries. And see, this is the point where you know how when you watch those movie trailers and they give you this entire summary of the movie, and then you go to the movies, you're like, I already saw the whole movie in the trailer.
Yeah,
I still haven't figured out exactly how much I want to give away.
Yeah. Don't give away anything, man. Make them pay for it, Rob.
So pretty much he finds out there's a big conspiracy of on the ambush. He's got to track down why him and his team were ambushed. He pretty much builds the Death Raider because it's my favorite characters are Batman, Punisher, Wolverine, and Iron Man. And so I pretty much looked at, a character that had a little bit of everything in there. So especially
you threw all those guys in a blender.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yes, exactly. So his suit is actually an armor. I thought that would just be a fun, different, a guy, run around like Batman, but it's more technical like Iron Man. And it's the only way he can get around is because of his armor. And, then that's where the sci-fi epic adventure takes off. And in fact, when I was plotting out the book, I always would go into the comic book store and I would look at all these comic books and be like, well, this is a brand new story. This is a brand new artist. This is a brand new, plot for this book. Like, you know how it is. Every 8 issues or every 7 issues, it's a new art team, new storyline, new direction, whatever. I'm like, they always had the same thing in common. You would flip the books open and like, you're selling a new artist and new characters, and this shit's boring as hell. Right. So right from the beginning, I wanted the superhero stuff to be really in your face and big and big action shots. And that's why probably people looked at like, hey man, all the artwork you've shared so far for Death Raider is a bunch of big shots. It's a bunch of, big pin-up-y type things. And I did that on purpose because this is the first time you're seeing this superhero in action. So it is a bunch of big fun shots, big action shots. But I'm also, I'm not an idiot after almost 30 years in the business. There's lots of storytelling and there's lots of multi-panel pages because that's the only way I could tell the story. That's why you do it the way you do it. So when we get into his origin and his military mission, we're going to see a lot of, panel pages, a lot of exciting stuff. But, it's also, that's where a big part of the story is. And as he chases after, how it is, one mystery leads to another mystery, leads to another mystery.
Right.
But it's definitely, it's a big sci-fi book. With, I think it's probably just as much sci-fi as it is the superhero twist. It literally, what I wanted to do is I wanted to take us, you look at him and right from the beginning think he's, a superhero, and put him in a sci-fi story, so we do have antagonists, but they don't scream superhero. They scream more of a sci-fi adventure. And that's probably the next sequence of artwork I'm going to be sharing is some of the antagonists and also more of the hot chick in panel pages, because everybody keeps going, okay, we know what your Death Raider looks like. What about some of the other characters?
So Death Raider's this big guy with the like skull face, the mechanical body. That's a great design, man. That looks fantastic.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. It's and I've shared, there's lots of other images that are all over Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. Other shots of them, and you can even see in the cover. And now I'm pointing at my screen. You can see.
Do you have some of that stuff? Because I can share your screen.
Let's see. Do you want me to just email it to you by Facebook or?
There's a button that says present.
Oh yeah.
If you click that, there's a series of clicks.
Yes.
And then you can.
I can share screen.
Yeah, you can share screen. Yeah, other screens.
Right. So if I share screen, and then would I be loading the stuff up in Adobe?
I usually drop it in Photoshop. So whatever it is that you can share, or if you have something up on your Facebook or Instagram or something, you can go there and we can share it through that. I almost asked you if you had some images, but it looks absolutely fantastic, man.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm having a lot of fun. I'm learning to work, make sure that my strengths are come forward first. You know what I mean? Like what I do well. A buddy of mine at CrossFit always said that he always saw me on some kind of like sci-fi book because of the textures I do, in the style of art I like. Andy Smith is a big fan of telling me, he goes, every one of your heroes look more like villains. And, he told me that probably 15 years ago, and I'm staring at Death Raider, and Death Raider looks more like a villain than a hero.
Well, his name is Death Raider, so there you go. Yeah. Exactly. So you guys, I put in the chat the sign up page for Death Raider, so you can click on that. Go and Pedro has what is this? RobHunter.com home and website. Is this your website here? That's on the screen.
Yeah, that's my website. I actually I haven't added any Death Raider stuff to it yet.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately. But my Facebook page, which is actually, if you type in Rob Hunter comic book artist, I think my Facebook address is actually comic book artist, something like that. Where remember when you got to choose your Facebook addresses?
No.
This was like 20 years ago, and I'm like, I typed in comic book artist, I think, or the comic artist, and I'm like, oh, it's still available. So
wow, so you're the guy.
Yeah, it doesn't really, I don't know, it doesn't really come up that way. I'm the only comic book artist on Facebook.
Well, we got some people in the chat. They're saying they signed up, so you got some people signing up. So we're doing some heavy lifting here, you guys. Everybody, just click on that link that I put in the chat. It doesn't cost you anything, and usually there's a free trading card or something involved. Is there a freebie for signing up here?
Oh, what it is with every order, if you get in on the sign up stage before the campaign goes live, it's you get an exclusive trading card
with a backing. So if you back it,
Yeah.
you get the trading card. A very
Yeah.
good, very good.
So yeah. So and I'm pretty sure the way Indiegogo, because of the email list, I will have the list of everybody who actually did the sign up and backed it before it goes live. So yeah, everybody gets an exclusive trading card. And I have redrawn that trading card 3 times because I keep trying to pack too much shit into it.
It's a trading card, man. The image
Yeah.
is this big.
I know. So I haven't decided on what the trading card is, which character it's going to be.
Rob, we need to talk, man. We need to talk.
I know.
You're working too hard. You're working too hard, brother.
Well, yeah.
No. I'm completely joking because on black and white, I need somebody to tell me to back off. Like I think Aaron Lepresti said you're working too hard, and Aaron puts everything into it too. So for Aaron to say it, it's like, yeah, maybe I need to chill out a little bit.
Well, I saw the Comic Kings. I saw a little part of it the other day where it was funny because they were talking about which book is not the better book, but which book is the better deal. And Shane Davis is like, oh yeah, it's definitely his book because of the cards and all the other stuff that comes with it. And Alo immediately brings up, how many pages is your book, Shane? Because Alo's is like 84 pages.
Yeah,
that's why I decided on 100 pages, because I think Alo's latest project says he's going to do 100 pages, or he's doing 80 some pages. I'm like, I can do 100 pages.
The thing is, I do think for me moving forward, I'm probably going to have to embrace something like that as well, because when I started this 3 years ago or whatever, however long it's been, Comicsgate, because I was there, pretty much at the beginning, we were thinking we were going to be able to put out more, almost like monthly or quarterly books. And then the reality is just it's kind of not, because there's so many things you're doing. And, like if it takes a writer a month to do a story, it takes an inker a month to ink it, it takes a penciler a month. That's 3 months worth of work that you're doing if it was monthly, if you're doing all 3 of those things. So, just that alone, and then art directing, being the editor on your book, getting talent, and then just marketing and promoting and everything that we do. It ends up taking a lot more time than any of us thought. So I remember it was John Malin said, whatever you think you can do, add 3 months to it, or it was something like that. It was like always add more time to it, because I think as talent, we always go, yeah, we could do it, and we probably could, but the reality is like, you'd kill yourself. You know what I mean? Is it worth killing yourself over? So being realistic with the deadlines and stuff like that. But I do think moving forward with bigger stories, bigger books, is you can tell a complete story.
Yeah,
versus serializing them. Yeah.
That's what I looked at with the 100 pager, is just because I looked at how I was pacing out the book. And I was like, I can't, I know Andy's like, he goes, well, a lot of people are doing 64-page books. And I'm like, I can't tell the story. That first story arc, I can't tell it in 3 issues, especially when I did introduce, because I've shown, I think, the cover and 4 pages of the interior for Death Rider, but I have like 10 pages sitting in my flat files of the first 10 pages of Death Raider that I just haven't shared yet. So, and partly it's because they're all 2-panel, 3-panel splash, they are really big images, and I don't want people to get the wrong idea. But then because of that style of pacing, especially in the beginning, and then I need a lot of pages to tell the rest of the story, really get into the, not just cool big actions, scenes, explosions. Like, I mean, that's, like a Michael Bay movie. I love Michael Bay movies. I love that blockbuster feel. But I also look at, like, you walk out of a movie and go, wait a minute, what the what what was the story again? Like, and I'm like, for people to commit $25 to a project and shipping, I'm like, I need 100 pages to tell this first story,
Yeah.
this origin story, and have a completion to it. I can't, you know, I just looked at it and go, I can't do it. I can't do it in 64 pages and then leave it at a big cliffhanger that kind of doesn't really make sense. Like, oh, or here comes part two in a year. Part two in a year. What? When did you
Yeah.
become a movie company? Um, and what you said about trying to manage everything, dude. You guys have two major jobs. You're doing at least two project manager jobs. You have all the artwork, the production of the comic, and you have all the media. You guys are online almost every day. Some
Yeah.
of I'm like, I just look at like the amount of time everybody's putting into this. It's like you guys are hyping the projects almost every day for 2 hours. And you're
Well,
like,
I had 6 hours invested
yeah,
yesterday.
6 hours, dude. That's for a lot of people, that's a full-time gig. I mean,
Yeah.
you're 2 hours shy of an 8-hour job, and it's not like you're getting compensated for that. You get compensated in the back end where people are like, oh, dude, I got to follow this guy's book. I got to get his book. But that's a lot of hours. That's a lot of time and investment in putting into a project that you still have to do everything. Andy told me just how long it takes to pack and ship, how long it took Alo, how long, and Alo is that's the nickname we gave him, Aaron Lepresti.
Aaron Lepresti, yeah.
Yeah, from Crossshed. He told me how long it took Alo to ship his last project and how long it took Andy to ship his last project. And I'm like, I'm going to spend if I'm lucky and it's very successful for my first time out, I'm going to be spending a month packing and shipping. I'm like, oh, holy crap. Like, I was like, wow. Okay.
Well,
So,
it's a little investment, but I'll tell you, man, as far as everything I've ever done in the industry, nothing's given me more satisfaction than Comicsgate and being able to entertain, this audience with these comic books, and everything is a labor of love. And I think I've never experienced anything like this. Sometimes the live streaming stuff is a little daunting,
mhm.
but it's also a lot of fun because everybody here is great. We all get along very well, and I think we play off each other, fairly well. I mean, we're busting each other's balls constantly, and just having a good time. And the best thing is that I like is I say what I want. People say
Mhm.
what they want. They're not guarded. Like, I hated the industry that you're walking on eggshells and you're worried about what this guy thinks, or
Yeah.
what to say in front of this guy or that guy. I just I don't like that. And here, I mean, for the most part, you don't really offend anybody. You know what I mean? Like, you're able to say what you want to say. You're able to say it the way you want to say it. And I remember talking to Dan Fragan, and we were just saying, it's freedom. It's freedom. It's a lot of work, but it's freedom to draw, to say what you want. You know what I mean? And as long as you have that audience that will support it, then you're on the right path. And so far so good, man. So far so good. So I saw this. Past Master Dan said, a YouTube isn't a job, it's an adventure.
Yeah. Well, I've actually sent Ethan a couple emails about trying to jump in on a couple of the live streams. So um, maybe someday when I'm lucky enough, I'll be able to get in there and bug the shit out of you guys too.
Oh, you will.
but but it's
Yeah.
yeah, I'm impressed. I'm definitely
Thank
impressed.
you. Yeah.
I'm definitely impressed with the time you guys are putting into it. It's innovation, man. You're right there with innovation again. I mean, think about it. People get to it's not just about cons anymore. People get to interact with you on almost a daily basis, and we actually real talk. I know the chats go fast sometimes, But I mean, they're getting to see the creators. I mean, shit. I remember my first few cons. I mean, even now, I don't know who the hell anybody is. I'm like looking at name badges, and you can see that. You can see people when they're talking looking for your name badge when they're trying to talk to you because they're like, "Hey,
Who
are you Rob?" Yeah, exactly. Who are you? Are you Rob Hunter? And I'm thinking, dude, there's nobody else behind this table but me and all my stuff, all my prints and stuff. So yeah, of course. But there's this, you opening up for comic book fans. This here's the creators. Here's the creators to your favorite books, and here's them actually speaking honestly and truthfully, not the comic industry passive aggressive, quiet shittiness that has been the way of the comic book industry for like the last, I don't know, it's been at least that way for 30 years now, where it's nobody's honest, nobody like, well, I can't, like, my favorite one of the biggest lessons I learned is, if you're smart, you never say no to an editor, because when you say no to an editor,
closing that door.
Yeah, exactly. They won't ask you next time. And you're like, well, don't you want me to do it? I mean, don't you want me to do a good job, or do you want me to just say yes to everything? He's like, you can't have it both ways. It's a double-edged sword. Like, yeah, I don't have time to do it, but I'll just rip this shit out real fast. Like,
they don't want reality. They don't want to know. They don't want to know how. They don't want to know why. They don't want to hear that you were deathly ill. And they just want that page. They just want stuff done. And I'm not going to mention this editor, but it broke my heart. I mean, this learning how to navigate this industry. It's not just about the work. It's about the people and realizing your place. And I had done these pages, and like I said, I was a California guy, so I flew into New York. I thought it would be great to hand the editor, like, it was like half the book, right? And just hand it to him, and then just to see him, like, look through the pages. I mean, this was early on in my career, so you kind of like think, oh man, this is gonna be great. I'm gonna get to see his reaction and all this other stuff. And he just did this, boom, 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 just like a shuffling a deck of cards, just kind of counted, oh, okay, it's 10 pages, opened the flat file and tossed him in the flat file and said, thank you. And I was like, I killed myself.
And you flew across the country.
I killed myself. I handed it to you. And this is it.
Yeah.
Anyway, to him, I mean, it wasn't personal. It wasn't like he was trying to be a dick. It was just the reality of the job. And, like, that reality had not been in my life. I kind of fantasized about the way it was going to be and how the response was and all that. And it just wasn't the case. So, I think life is a series of getting kicked in the teeth, but this industry, holy shit. I mean, I'm sure you and I should just do a show called Getting Kicked in the Teeth, because I bet you, we could go on for weeks, months even, just commiserating, because it is a really tough industry, and only the tough survive. Like it really is kind of a survival. Like when I was running Hack Shack Studios, and I had a lot of, people coming in, and I would train newbies, and then, they would kind of move up, and so there was various things that they would do. I mean, one of the basic things was like, well, you just do borders, you just outline borders, or you just fill in blacks, and, you kind of work your way up. And so I would tell those guys, it's like, it's not even the best guy. It's like, it's the guy that's the best that can make the schedule. That's what it is. It's like you could walk around and go, yeah, I killed it, I'm the best guy. But ultimately, if you can't get the job done, it doesn't matter. So and then I would say it's not a race. It's more of a like a marathon, I guess. It's not what do you call that? It's like a sprint. It's a marathon. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's daily, and you have to treat it that way too, because you'll burn out. Like, I'm sure you've hit the wall
I think all of us have hit the wall a couple times in our career where you literally just kind of bottom out. Like,
Mhm.
I remember from like Marvel to Image Comics, I'm thinking, oh, this should be the best time of my life. I mean, Image Comics, we're starting this thing,
Yeah.
and the enthusiasm, the adrenaline kept me going. But I was realizing, like, it was hard to go to work every morning. It was hard to get up, and I was like, why? This is like,
Yeah.
this is what you've always wanted. And then I just, you start looking and listening, and you're like, I think I'm burnt out. I think I just hit that wall. Right? I just don't want to do any of this stuff right now. And and also you just have that reality that you can't stop either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you just have to muscle through whatever that burnout is. You just have to kind of try to dig down and find whatever inspiration you can, to keep moving forward, because that's all there is. Like
Yeah.
people go, what's the key to success? Never stopping. You just don't stop, right?
Like a shark.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just keep going, man.
You stop moving, you die. Yeah.
Yep, you stop
Yeah,
moving, you die. Yeah.
I hit major burnout. They were switching me from Ed Benes to Mark Bagley, and Mark and I first did 4 issues of Batman, and then we were going to Justice League. I made the mistake of thinking, because I didn't want to give up those beautiful Ed Benes pages. I made the mistake of thinking I could ink Ed Benes and Mark Bagley at the same time. So there was a point where I would be working on Ed Benes pages, and I would look over at my flat files, and I'd have an entire issue of Mark Bagley's Justice League waiting for me, and I would just go, oh my god, like the pressure, like I would, and this is the story was such a mess on Justice League that the editor would be like, hey Rob, we know you got the entire issue there. This is what we want you to do. We want you to ink these 2 pages now, because they're going to be in last month's issue, because not enough happened in last month. So they literally were taking splash pages from one book and swapping. Yeah.
That is weird, man.
Yeah, well, it's because hey, I think the writer was going through some shit at the time, but all the things you could have done with Justice League, like, you and I as fans, we could just say, this won't be the best subplot story, but I'm going to have this villain in this issue, and then the next issue, another villain. Like, to be honest, my favorite runs of comic books, Amazing Spider-Man by Todd McFarlane, because there was new villains every month. Jim Lee's Hush, a new villain every month. There was a long story, but there was also introducing all these villains every month. They don't let just anybody do that in any book. That's I would tell the editor, I'm like, man, what we could just run through the gambit of Justice League and DC villains, and we'll be kicking ass. I don't know what this story's supposed to be. And he's like, don't worry about it. Just get to the pages. But yeah, they were shuffling pages back and forth from issues and telling me, oh, hey, this character's getting pulled from the issue, so don't ink that page. That shit was happening all the time on Justice League. And I would be like, I got to label this, because I'm never going to remember by the time I get to these pages. I'm still trying to ink these Ed Benes, Black Knight Teen Titan pages. And I finally realized I couldn't, I finally had to give up the Ed Benes pages and just try to catch up to Mark. But by the time that happened, I was actually already burned out. I was like, oh my God, this is the biggest break of my life. And I'm staring at this going, oh. And Mark does a thing where you work with Mark. He gets a little bit looser, as he goes, as he gets a feel for the story, and he's worried more about storytelling. I've never been the guy who, if you loosen up your pencils, I'm going to keep all of, 100% Mark Bagley. Like Norm Ratman came in to do a couple of pages, and he's like, are you doing finishes? And when he asked me that, I was like, oh no, I'm not supposed to be doing finishes. So Norman,
I think that's why you got that gig too, because like I always got those guys that didn't necessarily have a strong style, so they put me over,
flash it up.
People like that, yeah. And I think you were probably one of those guys as well.
Yeah,
that you could bring
some juice.
yeah, you could bring
Yeah.
something to it. And Mark's one of those guys for sure. Like, he's a workhorse. He gets things done. His action scenes are the best I think that anybody can do in comics.
Consistently. Yeah.
Consistently.
Yeah.
Just badass stuff.
Yeah.
And also I don't understand, like, if you're working with Mark Bagley, because I did Ultimate Spider-Man for 2 or 3 years, whatever.
A lot of work.
And I did. That's one of those things, we never missed an issue either in the run, and it went bi-monthly or whatever the hell it was. We were doing 2 books a month for a while, and Bendis would write these like just dialogue pages, and I'm like, dude, you have Mark Bagley. Fuck, man, just write some crazy action. And that's what some of these writers don't understand. Like you said, the Justice League. This is the Justice League. This should be bombastic stuff. This should not be, hey, we're sitting around the satellite, Justice League satellite monitoring crime. No, should be like, this is world-altering stuff. This should be nonstop action.
Yeah.
I always thought the Justice League should be an annual. It should not have been a monthly, because the thing is, when you make it a monthly, then it forces you to start writing mundane stuff, right? Because it's like, oh, it's day-to-day Justice League shit. Like, well, no, the Justice League shouldn't be hanging out every day. The Justice League should only be together when life-altering, like world-shattering, things are happening.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense, because Superman could probably handle most of that on his own.
It
has to be something big enough.
Yeah.
Like every time you write this stuff, it has to be bigger than Superman could deal with. You know what I mean? That's how you should start it. You should start, okay, if Superman can't deal with this, we got a Justice League story. And then you have to, we have a start of a Justice League story. Then you have to go, okay, Martian Manhunter, who's basically Superman, Wonder Woman. Then you have to start going, and it's like, okay, we got those 4 guys. Do we still have a Justice League story? You know what I mean? Because if you can't have those, like the 4 most powerful Justice League characters actively kicking ass, for that story, you don't have a Justice League story.
Well, and that's what they would do. They would do like a 4-page or 6-page, because the book was so bad. They were forcing the writer to do like 6 pages of, this is what happened on the weekend. Bullshit. Like, where it was just action. Like, look, it's Supergirl fighting this character, just so that there was some kind of action in the book. And you're like, what are you guys doing? And I think the biggest mistake, well, there's a lot of mistakes that DC does, but when stuff is written, they depower heroes instead of just making villains more powerful. You're like, what are you guys doing? Like, if you don't think you have a villain that's powerful enough to give Justice League a run, then create a new one, or power up the, you see it all the time. And this is from a fan perspective. Be fucking consistent with these characters. Even Chris Claremont would, one day Colossus is, one issue he kicks ass, and the next issue he gets punched, and he's over there for the rest of the book, because Claremont wanted it to be,
because it's plot convenience. It's like, it's easy, and it's weird, because I would see even Jeff Johns do this stuff, like to make Vixen look good. He depower Superman. It's like, well,
no.
People don't really want to see Vixen. I mean, the thing is, the hero is only as good as the villain. So you have to start with the villain story. You have to start with that, because if you don't have that, there's no reason for anything else. Like, you have to do that. And people used to understand that. Like, writers and artists used to understand that. Like, this villain has to be really bad, and they have to challenge Superman. This character has to be everything that Superman is, and then some, right? The villains have to be badder ass than Superman, or have Superman's ability, but just willing to do pure evil with it. You know what I mean? Like, this is not rocket science, but people used to understand this. But I also think, Rob, we're heading into like God, I could talk to you forever.
It's because we're comic fans, right? Most writers aren't comic book fans now.
Yeah, but I was just gonna say, like there's this trend to like I can never say the word, but like to power down the male. like to
Yeah.
make
Yes,
the
yeah,
man less manly.
yeah.
And so if you think about these stories, and I'm not just talking about race swapping
Mhm.
or I'm talking about like just a mindset. Just they don't think like what we just said
Yeah,
about making Superman look badass. You have to have a villain that's more powerful and more badass than Superman. But
yeah.
they don't think like that. They're just like, oh well, I'll have the Joker battle the Justice League.
You're like, wait, are you
He's
high?
he's
What
a
are you
street
doing?
he's a street level villain. He is,
Yeah.
he has no right being there. I would argue that Batman really has very little, like he would be like a behind the scenes guy of the Justice League.
Yeah,
He would
yeah.
not be a forefront, like on the line kind of guy. But I'll tell you, I could talk to you forever, Rob. But we
I,
should start wrapping this up, man.
it's the
Well,
2 hours.
yeah, welcome to CG, man.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're a
Yeah,
great
yeah.
addition
Thank
to
you.
the group. I'm sure you're going to be on everybody's channel. I'm glad that you asked me to come on. I do like hanging out with people, and I do like expansion. Like
Yeah,
Comicsgate is still growing. We're still getting new voices. We're getting new talent in there. Death Raider looks fantastic. I think
thank you.
we're going to give readers another great Comicsgate book. I think you have the proper balance to be Comicsgate. You got enough of that anger and I was done wrong, versus, I'm still optimistic and I want to
Yeah.
kick ass. You know what I mean? Like we're kind of beat up veterans, but we're not done yet.
Yeah, it's I really feel like I don't think I'm ever going to be done with comics. I can't just walk away, I'm given this. I can't say 200% because everything I work on, I try to give 125%, but I'm trying to give it 200% of everything else besides just comic book art, because I know for a project to succeed, it's more than what I put on the page, and even it's more than what the story is. It's everything else. It's from getting online and tweeting and retweeting and also knowing everything has to ship and all that stuff. You can't be the guy where all the boxes start showing up and you're just like, I don't feel like it. I don't want to pack today or whatever. So I know it's a mountain to climb, but I am optimistic about the fun craziness that will
You know what
ensue.
makes it easier is like I'm looking at all these names in the chat right now, and
Mhm.
I haven't met a lot of these people face to. Actually, I don't think I've met any of them, but I feel like they're family. I feel like that I know them. So like I don't want to. I don't want to mess them around.
Yeah, yeah,
I want to make sure. So, when I'm not exactly inspired and stuff like that, and maybe for you too, fire up a live stream, man, and go hang out with these guys, and then you get that connection in a way that we never ever got working for Marvel and DC. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like it's a
yes,
direct feedback, and it'll fuel your fire, man. It'll make you want to work harder. And give people the best product that you can possibly do. So, when are you thinking of launching Death Raider?
um I don't, to be honest, I'm going to be asking Andy. I mean, I know that I'm going to release a few more pages with sign up is still open. Probably, honestly, I probably won't go live for another month. I don't want to go live right before Christmas because that would be terrible. I haven't really thought. It's because I'm still just picking which pages to show online and so people can see what I am doing, because honestly most of my work has been inking for most of my career, so they're like, oh look, he can draw some armored skull guy.
I have to read this. This warms my heart. This is the stuff, man. This is Improbi. We are T-Bear Cubs. Yeah, we are.
I'm one of them.
Yeah,
I am too. Like one of my biggest influences is art. So I'm talking to my comic book hero here. So
thanks, man. I appreciate it. All I can think of is like we are Flintstone kids, 10 million strong and growing.
Vitamins.
T-Bear Cubs, 10 million strong and growing.
It
Yeah.
sounds a little weird too at the same time.
Yeah, oh, it's very weird, but you hang out with me long enough, the weird will show. Jetto says, I remember when Art was on the Jack show. Well, I don't.
I don't know what that is.
I don't remember being on the Jack show. I'm not saying I wasn't. Oh, what is this? See, glad we're Cubs and not fart clouds.
Fart clouds? What's a fart cloud?
I'll tell you. This. There's a lot of love, but sometimes it doesn't seem like it. That's how I'll say it. Okay, my first live stream with Ethan, everybody was like, it was like F art.
Really?
In the chat, it was like F art, F art, F art. Like it was just so.
Uh-oh. Now I'm scared.
Yeah, and then I was like, oh shit, what the hell's going on? This is a rough crowd, I tell you. You start doing your Rodney Dangerfield, and then I think Ethan could see I was like a little unnerved by it. He goes, that's just that's how they show their affection. That's what. And then I started saying, yeah, they it's like they kill you with their kindness. So yeah, here you go. So mortal remembers that day. Yeah. So
they didn't mean it. They didn't mean it like.
No, it just heckle you. It's the internet, man. You'll learn.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, when I started this, it was the Wild West. I mean, it has mellowed. There's people like Mortal V that still remember that shit, but it has kind of mellowed a little bit. But then you realize you kind of go with it. It's kind of like they kid because they care. It's not personal. Not that I ever took it that personal, but Ethan Van Sciver was like, when I was looking at it, I think he could tell, and he's like, oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's gonna be okay. It's kind of like being jumped into a gang. You know what I mean? Like, they beat the shit out of you, and then it's like, you're one of us. Yeah,
I actually got some hate mail when I was penciling on Suicide Squad, and the guy goes, what the F is this? And it was a guy that was doing his version of Jim Lee, but he couldn't get anything done on time because he had a lot of, the better he was at Suicide Squad, the more commercial art that was coming his way. And he's like, so this is what we have to expect from Suicide Squad. Some guy who was an inker and now he thinks he can draw. Man. And I told him and I emailed him back. I didn't get mad. I was like, dude, I can't promise I'll be perfect, but I'll promise that I'll get better with every issue.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah.
That's all I could do, and that's what I did. And then DC finally said, "Okay, that's enough." I really think when I worked on that book, my editor was like, "Rob isn't actually making more money than if he was just inking, because of how long it would take me to pencil and ink a page." He goes, "So every time I had a conversation with him, like, I think he was waiting for me to quit." And I was always waiting for him to fire me. Like, it was like this tense, like, am I getting fired this month? Or do I get to do another issue?
Well, yeah, Past Master Dan has some advice for the chat. Socks with soap on them is very effective.
Oh,
so put a bar of soap in a sock and whack.
Well, I will take my lumps as I deserve them.
Yeah, well, it's not always that you deserve them. It's just fun. It's good, clean fun, I'm going to do this real quick, and I'm going to show off my campaign real quick, and then we'll wrap this bad boy up. So,
dude, that looks so nice.
Oh, thank you, man. We got Black and White Volume 2, Man versus Machine. In a world where law and order is often blurred to gray, justice can only be black and white. So thank you so much, you guys. We got 1,419 backers. Say it right. And then we have 119,144 dollars worth of funds so far. So you guys are the best. Thank you so very much. The only reason this book exists is because of you guys. So I want to thank you. Every day I get to work on this. It's just a pleasure. I believe I'm doing the best work of my career here. We got some superstar talent lending their their work to the campaign. So we got Kenneth Rocafort, we got the great Joe Bennett working here. We got the High Octane Adventures, which is Von Klaus and Pedro Eng. I don't know if you know Pedro, Rob, but he was just hanging out in the chat on one of my live streams, and he's an animator, and he worked up some animation, some black and white animation of like Reed like running and then shooting his guns or something like that. And he sent it to me. And I was like, oh God, I got to use this guy. So I talked to Von Klaus and we came up with this story, just a one and done 22-page adventure. And it's in like an animated style. So Pedro did all 22 pages. This is his first comic book work. He did pencils, inks, and coloring. Super fantastic, man.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So if you haven't backed the High Octane, please do so. And then the volume 1 completely sold out. So this is volume 2, second printing with a brand new cover on it. And volume 1 and volume 2 will give you the complete origin saga. So you'll get a complete story. And like what Rob and I were talking, moving forward, I think I'm going to try to do more one and dones, which will require more pages. So I may go to like 100-page format. Moving forward. So just like one and dones, this massive graphic novel. And so we still have a few of the Greg Capullo variants left. So you can only get that in the black and white jam tier. And then this is the only original artwork that I have available right now. And it's the layouts. And so you can get these as add-ons or in their own tier. And then you guys, if you haven't backed it, click on the link. It's in the description and check out everything that's offered, and also scrutinize those stretch goals, because when you back a book, all those stretch goals are yours. So you get those absolutely free, no extra money required or anything. So you're not just getting the book, you're getting, all kinds of cool stuff, patches, pins, stickers, bookmarks, trading cards, all kinds of cool stuff. Without any extra cash on your part. And also, if you have already backed, please check out the t-shirts. So I got the black and white wraparound t-shirt with Whitney on the front, with the Gunsight, black and white Gunsight logo over the breast pocket. I have the Hack Shack logo, the black and white logo on the other sleeve, and then Reed Blackett, aka Black, is on the back. And those were done by Red Valkyrie. Shay put that together. She's a great graphic artist, and I think she hit that one out of the ballpark. We still have the Inko tees, which are cool. That's the Hack Shack mascot. Inko, that's good ink. That's his slogan. And yeah, when you back a Rob Hunter book in the future, you're going to get some good ink too. So there you go. So yeah, you guys. Oh, we have the Keshi figures too. So we have 6 out of 20 claimed. So once that 20 is claimed, these black and white Keshi figures are going the way of the dodo. They're disappearing. So if you want these collectibles, back now. So we had a tier earlier. We completely sold out, and once this is sold out, the black and white Keshi figures will be done. So you guys click on that link and check out everything Black and White has to offer. And everybody that has backed the book, I do greatly appreciate it. You guys are the best. CG is the best. Rob will find all this stuff out in time. And thanks, man. I can't thank you enough. It's absolutely fantastic. I get to do, draw these IPs, these characters that I love every day. And it's all me. It's not, I don't have to go to an editor. It's like, do you like this? Is this good enough? I don't have any editor looking at the pages and just throwing them in a flat file. I don't.
Or approving the worst cover layout.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Yeah. And you learn
horror
that,
stories.
Yeah, you learn that the hard way, right? You
Yeah.
don't give any of your layouts for the covers unless you absolutely love them yourself, because the worst one is the one they'll pick.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually of all those books, your covers are my favorite. The ones that you did. I'm like, oh man, dude, you know those characters so well.
Thanks,
So,
brother.
like
do
I said, yeah, dude, your stuff. It was one of my favorite Image books because it was a miniseries to start, right? Wasn't there 4
Yeah,
issues?
it was a 3-issue miniseries,
3
and
issues.
then we tried to get the ongoing done, like the next year, get it up and running, and then the market just freaking died. Like it,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, it was so.
Did you do Did this regular series have a couple of issues come out though?
One issue came out. Yeah, it
Okay.
was codename Black and White. So we renamed it, and we had a whole story arc. And that idea was never came to fruition. And my wife, who was my co-writer, Pamela, she absolutely loved the story. So for 25 years, she's like, "Are we going to do anything with it? Are we going to do anything with it?"
Yeah.
And the market just, I mean, even Image Comics, as cool as Image was, it just doesn't make financial sense to kill yourself for one of these independent books and just not get paid. And you know, we had a young family. I just couldn't do it. It felt selfish. So, you know, when CG kind of came up, it's like all of a sudden it seemed viable, right? We can actually do these indie books and financially it makes sense. So we are going to do that story. We are going to do that story. Awesome. That's going to be the next story arc. So that's possibly going to be that 100-page story. Well, it will be that story. I'm just not sure what the format will be, but it looks like it feels like we've been doing this long enough, Rob, that, you know, like your gut, like you kind of go, well, I think I could tell the story in 68 pages, or I can tell the story in 100 pages, because I don't know if you're like me, but all the key elements, they're in your brain, right? And
Act 1, 2, 3, and maybe Act 4.
Right, and you also have like the key scenes, like this is going to be, this is 6 pages, this is 8 pages, this is 3 pages, you know, that type of thing. And then you can kind of do the math really quickly. It's almost intuitive at this point. So it does feel like it would probably be like 100 pages. And your gut's telling you the same thing going into Death Raiders. So, very, very good, man. Well, welcome once again.
Thank you very much.
You're a badass mofo. You're always welcome. You're always welcome on this channel, for damn sure. So
I appreciate that, dude.
Yeah, and we should do what did I say? Kicking in the teeth. We should do some kind of show like where we'll just tell war stories.
Shit.
Yeah, talk shit. Ooh, we could call it talk shit.
Talk shit.
Talk shit.
Oh, everything that's wrong and everything that's great about comics, and it'll be 4 hours of wrong and 10 minutes of right. People are like, dude, it's depressing.
Yeah, this will keep us out of therapy for sure. Yeah, and you know what else is good is because I guarantee you, Rob, there are people like us that are watching these things, and they're just shaking their head like, this sucks.
You're on Spider-Man right now going, I'm getting fucked.
I'm getting screwed. I'm doing the top book for, you know, Marvel, and I'm getting screwed. How is this possible? I got like these wizard awards. I got like all these awards. I don't even put them all out. And so I was like, I got fired at Marvel. I got Ultimate Spider-Man taken away from me, and I got Ultimate X-Men taken away from me, and I was told by David Bogart I would never work there again.
I know. I listened to that video.
Within,
I listened to it. I watched it, the whole thing.
It's crazy, right? Within like just a conversation on the phone, right? And then I'm like, I was just nominated for, like, I got these like Ultimate Spider-Man awards, like the industry loves this book, like all this great stuff. And then like Bendis and Bagley, we were all like in this pack, like we're not going to give up one single page. So we had each other's back. Like we're going to do every book, every page, you know, all this stuff. And we're going to beat Jack Kirby's record as far as longest running. And those two guys did, but you know, I got Ace, and I was just like, this is like the best of times and the absolutely worst of times. Like, how could you be one of the most celebrated guys at that moment in time? I'm not saying forever, but that one moment in time, and then just be treated like so badly.
That's the problem with the big two is you are the shining, like a buddy of mine he would warn me because he used to be an editor at DC. He goes, how's it going, Rob? And I go, dude, I'm still the shiny new toy. And he goes, you know what? it's not going to last forever. So enjoy it while it lasts. He goes, because all of a sudden you're going to realize that latest project they offered you is shitty. And then it's all downhill from there. But that's what you could be doing, the best work of your life. You could be kicking so much ass, and one person's decision that you say the wrong thing to them, or they don't like you in the first place, and now they get a new position. It's over.
Yeah.
You go from, when am I going to get a day off, to, oh my God, am I ever going to work again? And
Yeah.
there's no loyalty at all, because in the end, corporate America they're worried about their job. They know that they can fire people, but if they keep you on, what's that going to say? What if, it's all the backstabbing, and it's insane. And it's really sad. You would think, a beloved industry like this, it would be the exact opposite.
Well, it used to be like there
Yeah.
used to be editors that were in your corner,
Mhm.
like Bob Harris used to fight for all of us like tooth and nail. But then it just became like, I think it was just, God, we could talk forever. Like just corporate, like there were non-editorial, there were non-editors, there were like people that were muscling their way into creative decisions and running
Yeah.
the show. And those people, they had no idea how much work it took to put out these books, and they had no idea how fragile this ecosystem is.
Mhm.
Like one cold, you get a cold, that could devastate you.
Mhm.
That could throw you, and you never tell an editor. You never want to show weakness, because then they're going to get scared, and then they're going to pull you from the project. So you learn to be freaking tough. You have you have a poker face constantly.
Yeah.
You could be dying, and you're never going to tell your editor because of the shit. We had, oh my gosh, we had my daughter, and so I'm in the hospital with my wife. We just brought this beautiful young baby girl into the world, and then I'm just like, fuck, I got to get that cover out. So I drove from the hospital. I drove to the studio. I put that thing together. I dropped it in the mail, and then I drove back. I'm almost crying, to be with my wife. And when you have to do it, they don't understand this shit. There's human people. There's people that are involved with this stuff. You know what I mean? And I signed it AET. And my daughter's initials, her name's Amanda Elizabeth T. Bear.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh man, I'm whelping up. I signed it with her initials.
Yeah.
So I mean, I tried to. You always try to turn like bad things into good things. So I always have that cover to look at. I always have that as a memory. It's just a personal thing within my family. No one else probably knows any of that, but for us, that's what we did. And there's just stuff like human stories like this that are happening constantly that editors used to know because they were in the trenches. Good editors would ask you, like, how's it going? Stuff like that. And you knew you could tell them, and they weren't going to use that information against you
to replace you.
Then it turned into like, well, they would panic, they would get freaked out, and they would just replace you.
Yep.
God, it's hard. It's a hard living, man.
I had a Green Lantern editor, and I was just helping out on some Ed Venice pages, and I had to give up one of them because my wife was going to have surgery, and the editor never responded to me ever again. And I'm just like, dude, you brought me in just to help out anyways, and they always act like you don't have the regular gig you're working on too. Like, you're trying to help out, and they're just like, screw it. So, or how about
one slick dude? He's been watching for a while. He's like, Art can turn a sign off into an epic.
We go on for another 2 hours with the
we could, man. We could.
Yeah.
Okay. This is my promise. Okay. I'm going to give you a parting shot, Rob, so you can turn this epic into even more so.
Oh, no.
For me, I just want to say thank you, Rob, so much. This was a pleasure. Death Raider looks absolutely fantastic. The link will go in the description, but I'm going to drop another link into the chat right now. So you guys click this link, go sign up for Death Raider. I'm sorry, my nose is running. And back that up. The book looks fantastic. So welcome to CG, and you have a parting shot, Rob?
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's all of as everybody saw that when Art tried to get me to share artwork and I couldn't figure it out on here. All of my I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, and it's Rob Hunter Art is my handle on I think all that stuff except Facebook. I mean, just type in Rob Hunter comic book artist. But I've been sharing a lot of my Death Raider artwork on all of those social platforms. So anybody that knows anything about Death Raider, they've seen a lot of it anyways. So that's why I'm terrible at sharing during live streams and videos and all that stuff.
You'll figure it out, man.
But yeah, so that's I hope anybody who hasn't signed up can sign up because it really does just give me a little more steam as I'm working on pages and I'm doing stuff. And for everybody that I owe commissions to, I've been jamming on the commissions also. I've been working on all of them at the same time, which might not be the smartest thing. Art could probably help me on that. Like, dude, just work on one commission, finish it. Work on another commission, finish it. But so that's it, man. This has been a blast, and thank you very much for having me on here. And man, that black and white stuff looks awesome.
Well, thank you. Great, and we really should do. It'll probably be a limited like mini series, but we'll do like kicking the teeth in or something.
Yeah.
Or what do you say? What do you had another one?
Oh shit! I've already forgotten. It's
It had something to do with shit.
Talking shit.
Talking shit. Yeah, talking shit. Yeah.
Talking shit about comics.
So this is not the last you will see of the Hunter T Bear combo.
I made it. Hunter T Bear in the same sentence. Yes.
Well, it's all good, man. We're all fans of each other, and anything that inspires, man. We all take inspiration from different talents, different people. Different projects, it's all good, man. And there's still great stuff being done. Comic books, especially here in CG, is so interesting. Nobody's really doing, like rehashing kind of superhero stories. We're all kind of taking things into our own direction, things that influenced us, things that we liked.
Yeah.
We're bringing those into our IP, and it's very personal. And we got a great audience here, Rob. So I want to thank everybody once again and take care. And tonight we have the Pontificators. It is, what is it? It's 8 Eastern Standard Time. And we're going to pontificate the hell out of, I don't know what yet. We'll figure it out. I'm thinking maybe we'll do an in-demand. We'll do an in-demand show. So what we do, Rob, is sometimes we, because books go in demand. So there's the live campaign, then there's the in-demand campaigns.
Yeah.
And so, in-demand store, I guess it's more of a store. So what we do sometimes is we do these spotlights where we'll take books in demand and we'll put a spotlight on them and see if we can get some people that haven't heard of these books to come in. And also the good thing about the in-demand books is if you haven't backed, you don't have that long to wait because a lot of them are close to being done or are also, are being fulfilled right now. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of cool things about, backing books that are in demand. So we'll probably end up doing that tonight unless we can think of other stuff to do. So that's Pontificators tonight at 8 Eastern Standard Time. It's the longest running CG show ever. We've been going 3.5 years on Pontificators. So I do believe it's the longest running show that has that any CG people have done so far. So if you want to see what that's all about, come by tonight. We will rock your socks off. So everyone take care. Have a great day. Thanks again, Rob, and see you tonight.